differences to sort of Europe in general. That even though these players all came from 4 different countries as well, their lineups are so similar.
So looking at the EU participants, we have 5 players that are all very big names. In this case, not really.
Test.
I think they have a player base that is
Test.
most efficient at like figuring out the meta and essentially finding the best lineup.
Tes.
Seems like in any
Tes. Sudah oke ya?
field on roughly one strong set of lineups or like one strong set of decks.
I would say
Udah oke ya? Udah keluar suaranya ya?
a way to
Nah,
like how each meta
bentar. Tadi kita masih setting dulu. Tunggu. Sebelum mulai kita setting dulu.
diversity in North America and I see a lot
Kita nyalain lampu dulu.
There's no amount.
Oke, guys, gue mau tanya siapa jagoan kalian di turnamen kali ini,
Skill and
di World kali ini ya, yang lolos, yang top
the fact that
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Top 8-nya kalian siapa aja ininya.
it's just we're gonna see who the best player actually is.
Tadi gue baru tidur jam 10 tadi, Ini kan baru jam 10. Hari ini maksudnya baru tidur jam 10, gila sih. Aku besok pagi harus bangun pagi loh, karena jam 10 ada acara. Gawat banget ini. Kayaknya nggak bisa sampai final ya.
be the best in their region. The top 16 have made it into the World Championship in which they'll compete for the title of Legends of Runeterra World Champion. Those top 16 competitors from all over the world are going to battle
Ini
it out.
dengar musik kayak gini bisa bisa
Shot of becoming
kena monetize nih,
the
kena
wait is over and the competitors are ready. First to find out who becomes the Legends of Runeterra World Champion.
bisa kena
And
copyright.
welcome to the final day of the Legends of
Ada perwakilan server sih nggak bang? Ada si Odyssey. Nanti dia main pertama ya lawan What Am I atau Who Am I? Dari Indo nggak ada. Yes. Jagoanku sih si Chu itu ya, karena dia bawa Heimerdinger. Jadi kita lihat aja.
And we also had groups C and D perform on day 2, where we took the top 2 players from each group after those round robins, and we placed them into the top 8 bracket.
Ini nggak ada loser bracket sih ya.
Elimination best of 3 bracket to decide the world champion today. Let's go ahead and take a look at that bracket to show you.
Mau kue mengekes kah kayaknya sih.
We have some incredible players at the very
Suara videonya besarin dong bang. Kemarin pada bilang semua suruh kecilin. What Am I tuh? What Am I sama Odyssey. Yang C cuma 1. NA ada 2. Jepang 1. Euro 3 ya. Gila. Juara satunya 40.000.
But the lion's share is up for grabs today with $40,000 going to the world champion.
40.000 tuh sama dengan menang menang yang biasa 4 kali. Trofinya World Championship. Keren ya pialanya.
We got the fist bump emote for you, which you know is going to be great to increase
Fist bump.
the emote game within Legends of Runeterra. But to kick off everything today, we have an incredible special treat for you all, where we've got 2 special guests joining us on the broadcast. We've got Steve Rubin and Alex Lee from the developer team.
Oh, Steve Rubin. Rubin Zue.
Doing great. So excited for today. Thanks for having us.
Alex, what about you?
Oh, Rubin Zue beda banget modelannya ya. Dari fotonya dia di Twitter.
Well, I want to just start
In
off
your
by
games, yeah.
allowing you to both introduce yourselves to the Legends of Runeterra community that's tuning in today. Steve, why don't you start?
Hi.
6.000 udah banyak, iya.
Also known as
Aku dukung Yamato sih, mainnya
I'm
bersih
game
banget.
designer at
Oke.
Riot Games. If you play lore, you might know me from being
Kabar kemarin kok live-nya nggak selesai bang, ngantuk, nggak kuat aku begadang sampai jam 7 pagi. I
So
have
sometimes on
something
by
to do
design,
siangnya.
alongside
Kayak malam ini
Alex.
juga, aku besok
And
jam
yeah,
10
that's what I
harus
do at
pergi
Riot,
ke
and I'm just
gereja
so
buat
pumped for these games.
jadi relawan
Yeah, so I'm Alex,
apa namanya,
senior game
vaksin.
designer on Lore as well. I was
Halo,
the set
halo,
lead for
telatkah
Rise of
saya?
the
Belum,
Tides, and
belum.
then I was one of the lead designers for Beyond the Bentlewood, as well as doing a bunch
Belum,
of the live design
belum.
stuff with Steve.
It's awesome to see how both of you have influenced the metagame for Legends of Runeterra, but I really want to ask you about, what the competitive journey for Legends of Runeterra has really looked like from launch to today. Alex, what are kind of your thoughts about how that has developed leading up to the World Championship?
Wis, ada laba-laba
It's been pretty
di
incredible.
atas
I would actually step back a little
komputerku.
bit and say, like, during dev, we would occasionally do tournaments, just to see how stuff was feeling. And so
Belum vaksin ya,
going
Bang?
from,
Sudah.
That to
Karena udah vaksin
seeing
jadi relawannya.
the homebrew tournaments that have popped up from players to seasonals to this has just been
Nugas
an insane
terus.
journey. Because
Tugas geografi ini, bos.
You can remember the times it was just all of us in the office yelling about what deck was going to be the best, and so seeing that realized is it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming. Alex mentioned the internal tournaments used to have, like,
Steve Rubin ini nomor 1 di NA kayaknya.
Top decking a Karina Varaza against me in a tournament, and everybody just 2 in a row, and everybody just losing their minds in the office to now at the World Championships. It is absolutely wild to see, like, our players get into the competition, construct their best lineup in our format and go at it for the World Championship. That evolution is something that I think we always believed in lore as a competitive game, and now we're kind of seeing that come to fruition, which is just great.
Let's talk about the World Championships a little bit more. It's been a 3-day event, which has been super exciting to see all of the plays, all of the deck lists. But, Steve, what are kind of your initial thoughts about the World Championships and what it means for the Legends of Runeterra community?
My initial thoughts are I'm honestly blown away. When I heard we were doing Worlds, I was super excited as a competitive player myself. And just seeing the whole build-up of the sort of seasonal points and the ranked ladder, and then the players that did well at the seasonals themselves, all kind of funnel into the best of the best. Absolutely one of the most skill-testing sort of like metas and trajectories I've ever seen in a CCG. So I definitely have really, really enjoyed that whole year leading up to Worlds, and then just the top 16 has been so intense. So many great games. I think yesterday when I saw that like everybody was 1-on-1, and then there was going to just be 4 win-ins in a row to the top 8. I was really, really proud of both, what lore has done, but what the community has kind of built competitive lore into.
Yeah, I mean, I would share similar sentiments. It is extremely impressive and amazing to see not only like the structure go, but also just like the refinement from players and the player decks.
Gak nyangka bentar lagi ada update Battle Academia. Ada.
What decks are players going to bring into the
skin Academia bagus sih kayaknya. Caitlyn pasti ada. Caitlyn skin Academia kan ada ya.
Why don't we go into that a little bit more? I think the deck diversity of the World Championship has been unmatched so far. And Alex, I'd really love to hear your thoughts about maybe some of the decks you were most excited about seeing in the World Championship.
Yeah, I will be.
Ezreal pasti
Darkness,
sih.
Was one that I think
Battle Academia itu kan Fiora, Caitlyn, Ezreal ada.
Awesome.
Apalagi ya? Itu kayak Mega Bundle ya? Apa Mega Ultra Event Pass?
And for me personally, seeing the like Ezreal Curious Shellfolk deck pop up, and like just seeing it pop off when it has been amazing.
Oke, kok prediksiku si Caitlyn ya? Arina ada. Ini siapa lawan siapa? Nggak terlalu ngikutin kompe ini. Nanti ini pertama Odyssey lawan What Am I? Look ada. Tapi nggak pernah dipakai gitu. Sayang banget ya.
Yeah, for me, I love the aggro decks. I love seeing the players, all the Lulus and Poppies running around. Seeing a lot of Draven Scions, though it seems to be mostly banned, so maybe we'll get to see that more today as players adapt. Definitely agree with Alex that I think we see a lot of like these one-off control decks that are interesting, like the Darkness deck that Yamada brought, or the Allen's Curious Shellfolk deck. Definitely interesting to see now that players have a day or two to kind of look ahead and see, I'm going to be playing against this weird control deck. I'm super interested to see how that plays out, given the bans, you know, and the group stage was kind of thrown in. It's like, oh, I need to play against this deck I haven't played against. Now players have a bit more time to prepare, so I'm gonna see. But really interesting to see how those sort of control decks pan out.
We have seen some
Lihat
incredible
dia ada
deck
ininya nggak
lineups
sih?
and
Nggak
also
ada.
some incredible plays. And
Bawahnya.
you were just talking about how there's
Kalau
that
Valorant
memory
ada
of top
ininya,
decks
ada
in your history.
schedule,
and so,
ada
was there anything that
lengkap
stood
lah.
out to you
Cuma
about these players'
Valorant
play
timku
styles
sudah
or
kalah si
specific moments that
Sentinel,
have happened during the
sedih.
World Championship so far?
Yeah, I mean, the most exciting moment for me was the
Leona.
Real Key versus Badge Attack game where, you know, it looked
Leona aja
so
di
much like Badge Attack was
pantai itu
turning the
beats
corner.
nggak ada ya di
Real
pool
Key
party, nggak ada
eventually
dia.
drew Leviathan for lethal, and,
Padahal skinnya di
you
WR
know,
kan
my
ada
boy
ya.
Akshan had to get in there with the Relic of Power and the Relic, or the Fount of Power to draw 3 cards to find the Concerted Strike to kill that Leviathan. I think that's definitely like a highlight moment that I'll probably never forget.
Yeah, I think for me, the Alan versus Yamato with his Darkness deck, like seeing the Darkness deck. Sorry, I should say like the Darkness deck is always exciting. It's like, can we get there? We all kind of know what it wants to do, and seeing him kind of like play out his options, and then we're all kind of relying on that top.
Bang, Champion Fax bakal ada di LoL PC dan kayaknya bakal ada di Runeterra sih karena dia ikut campur pas Viego nge-Ruination. Tapi event Ruination udah selesai ya di LoL. Jadi aku kayaknya ngira bakal nggak ada lagi sih.
I also really like that we saw some Feel the Rush kind of come into play for some of those final moments. That was definitely a really cool way to end some of those games. But, you know, players, play styles, decks, they've all been incredibly diverse. And I know it's
Nanti
really
akhir bulan
hard
aku
to
mau
pick a
coba ini
favorite,
Pokemon Unite ya. Kalau kalian mau nonton boleh.
anyway. So,
Kita belajar
you know,
bareng
Alex,
ya.
for our
Karena
final
game
question,
baru
why don't you,
belum pernah
tell us
nyoba,
maybe
belum
who
pernah
you're
main.
rooting for, who you think's gonna take it all home?
Oh, it's so tough. Yeah, I think I'm still rooting for Yamato. I think like watching him play and just how he's been able to execute on his decks is like really enjoyable. And so I'm kind of looking forward to see if he can take it all the way.
Yeah, for me, my eyes are really on the top of this bracket.
Benar juga
I think
sih.
that,
Tapi
you know,
menarik
one of
juga
my
nih karakter.
Historically, probably the most the most experienced tournament player. You know, I know he plays in a lot of the.
Kayaknya next bakal Ahri masuk.
Over the weekends, the small tournaments. He's been on the Saturday Sunday stage before in those.
Untuk Ionia sih tak tebak Ahri ya. Dan mungkin Ahri bakal kuat sih.
Who, of all the day 2 competitors, I think Odyssey definitely played the cleanest. I'm super excited.
Dan nanti kalau KDA udah masuk semua, skin KDA pasti ada.
Majin Bay, who was playing the same exact lineup as What Am I, so it's definitely might be a little bit of an interesting matchup going in. So excited for that. But in terms of those are my picks to win.
Kan game
in terms of who I'm
lagi itu Bang,
most rooting for,
bukan.
it's definitely gonna
Itu
be
MOBA.
Alon. I think
MOBA
that,
Pokemon.
You know, me and him go way back, and I'm just, I think that there's something to say for those latter players.
Terus sekarang enakan pakai apa Bang? Pakai Draven Sion. Udah paling enak sih. Atau kalau mau TFGP Bundle City Agro. Itu sih, 2 itu kayak. Follower Ahri malah sudah ada Bang. Nah, karena followernya udah ada.
Alex, thank you so much for all that you do.
Sama kayak Pike dulu kan. Keluar apa namanya? Ya skillnya dulu, spellnya dulu, nanti dia keluar malah 2 ekspansi setelah itu kan. Ekspansi terakhirnya.
Developers themselves about all of the incredible things happening in the Legends of Runeterra community, and specifically with the World Championship that we are going to be concluding today and crowning a world champion. So I can't wait to get into that, and we're just going to go ahead and start with the games, shall we? Casanova and Swim, welcome on board. We're kicking off the day today with an incredible match, and I am so excited
Secret
to hear
Lab,
also
Secret
your
Lab. Aku
thoughts,
pengen kursi Secret Lab itu sih.
that developer interview.
Yeah, I mean, it's always so much fun to hear from those two. Ruben has actually cast tournaments with me in the past. We used to run an event called The Reckoning, and Ruben has cast.
Yang belum dari Veljot, Ionia, Targon.
Yep. Rising Tides and Beyond the Battlewood. So it's always
masih
cool
banyak yang belum kok.
not only about the game, but about, you know, the players and what they're watching from the developer perspective. And yeah, they shouted out a lot of things that I think I agree with on some of the players who played the best and who might be looking at.
Demacia aja juga belum. Demacia sendirinya ya. Demacia kan baru dari Bundle City gabungannya.
I mean, the Bundle City expansion was my favorite one, hands down, personally. I mean, it all feels very balanced and very impactful at the same time. But I mean, also props to, you know, the live balance team. I mean, we just had 2 live balancers there, not just, I mean, basically everyone on the dev team, because well, a little bit of backstory. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I tweeted basically, the game is so perfect right now. You know, the expansion's really good, the meta's so good, but just a couple of nerfs. You know, where are those Merciless Hunter and Ruin Runner nerfs? And the devs came through immediately, and just the fact that those nerfs came through and we were able to have this tournament with the meta that it has absolutely shows their dedication to,
Ingin sih deh masih Galio. Galio ya, aku bingung sih mau apa ya.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the diversity, the player diversity, and everything that we get a chance to see throughout the course of the World Championship. I'm so excited to get into today's games. But before we do that, in case you missed it, let's go over what happened Day 2, because there was a ton of action. Groups C and D, just like groups A and B, were completely stacked. So, Cass, why don't you kick us off with
Masih udah Poppy, nggak Poppy kan hitungannya masuk ke itu ya, ke Bundle City ya.
Over the course of the day, we started it all out with Chelo picking up this insane win over Alan playing the Zoe Nami. Alan had found an insane line where he got a trap that allowed him to play a sword on an elusive and had a get excited to follow up the guiding touch. It looked over, but Chelo brought it back, and then, you know, we saw a lot of Americas popping off in the early stages of the day, right, Swim? But it just got turned around as things went on.
Majin B mukanya bete banget. Dia misplay
here, and Yamato beating Cello, and that's kind of like the theme of yesterday. Was on day 1, the Americas did really well, and yesterday, day 2, was a really, really good comeback for both Asia and the European regions. And we're seeing right now, going into day 3, we have basically an even distribution among all 3 major regions.
Yeah, it's a 3-3-2, right? 3 Americas, 3 Europe, 2 from Asia. Almost, I mean, it is as even as it can get, right? With this many players.
Exactly.
It's the most even as possible. A lot of deck diversity as well. You're seeing a Feel the Rush on your screen right now. Nobody can tell me they expected to see a Feel the Rush going into Worlds. I don't believe you. I don't believe you if you say you did. We're seeing it from Shihu, and he's made it to top 8 with this list. You can see Majin Bay probably not super happy about losing to that list, as one he probably never anticipated running into, and Shihu with the amazing pop-offs all day, throwing up the raise your dongers for the chat as well, consistently finding those victories with the Heimerdinger list. And there it is.
Raise your donger.
It's right there. It's right there, Swim.
I love Shihu, Cass. Honestly,
so
as much as I have NA bias, and I'm sure you can relate, a large part of me is secretly rooting for Shihu to live. I love
masih yang belum Sinsao, ya Sinsao Zona, Galio,
and his lineup is spicy, and it paid off big time yesterday.
Really
Brian, yay, dapat emot puro. Udah dapat ya, udah masuk ya. Kita coba cek ya.
Let's go ahead and show you the players once again, or who are going to be competing in the final day of the tournament. I mean, this is an incredible list of players. We had so many strong players just leading up to the World Championship, but these are the last 8 standing. And Swim, why don't you kick it off with who maybe your top 2 favorites are for the tournament?
I gotta say, I mean, at this point in time, it's a really, really tough call. My top 2 picks for this tournament are probably Watamai and Alan, although Shihu is a close third. Now, that being said, I might be a little bit biased because not only
ini sudah dapat nih.
bias, but I also have just general Western bias. When we get to Odyssey and Yamato, these are players
Mana ya,
that I haven't really had seen play before, because mostly I've cast and watched a lot of both NA and EU games, and these are wildcards. They did super well yesterday. What do you think, Casanova?
I mean, for me, I gotta agree with you with Watamai. He's the only person that went 3-0 in his group. I like his lineup a lot. I think he's been playing really clean, and it seems like he's got some RNG on the side as well. He can probably tell you that himself. So he's looking good in this tournament. And that's for the top half of the bracket. On the bottom side, I want to get a pick from there as well. I'm looking at the matchup between Aikado and Yamato. I think Yamato played some of the cleanest gameplay of anyone yesterday, but I have question marks about the darkness. Aikado has been on a crazy hot streak over the past month. he's almost undefeated with
New
his Ezreal deck.
Porofen
He is
emote
undefeated
kita
in
lihat
this
ya.
tournament with his Ezreal deck. And I think if he can get through Yamato, I think Ikato has a really good shot of
kita
making
lihat
it all
dulu.
the way. So really for me, kind of cheating, getting a third pick there. But I think the winner
oke,
of that
udah.
matchup has a really
Deck
great
profile
shot
terus
of going
drop.
to the
Oke,
end.
thank you.
And I gotta say, I mean, you nailed it perfectly. I completely
Majin
agree.
B kayak
If I
di nerf
had
banget di
to
turnamen
break down
ini.
the general kind of themes of these three regions, because that's the fun thing about Worlds. It's
Oke,
all these
sebentar.
regions with different playstyles, different deck building
Kita cek.
mentalities, different strategies, kind of merging together. We see the American players brought pretty like standard, kind of like non-risk averse lineups, like early high variance decks, a lot of Zoe.
Oh, masih belum masuk ya?
A lot of just general like high
Sabar aja.
value, like average value decks.
Oh, ini langsung masuk.
Players go a little bit spicier.
Ini kita
We see
udah
Shihu and Allen that brought like
4 hari berarti nggak 3 hari nggak ngereng ya.
The Asian players, Yamato and Odyssey, bought decks that are a little bit weird, decks that we haven't really seen before. But the one thing we can all agree on is their execution is flawless. We saw both Yamato and Odyssey play almost flawless days yesterday. Like you could not spot a mistake that they made, and that's insane.
Sudah.
I think they're definitely and hopefully going to be in top form for today because these are the matches that decide it all.
Kan?
Single elimination bracket, top 8 players. What more could you ask for the final day of Legends of Runeterra World Championships? But let's go ahead and get the action underway. Cass, why don't you intro that first match?
All right, thank you so much, Necro.
What am I sama Odyssey? Ayo go Odyssey.
What am I versus Odyssey? We got the perfect record from yesterday versus some of the perfect play, the perfect record from day 1 versus some of the perfect play from yesterday with Odyssey. This matchup's going to be sick, Swim. I'm really looking forward to these two players going at it. I think their lineups are pretty even, maybe a slight edge to What Am I, but it's going to be quite a match.
Close. It's very, very close. And you mentioned that, a little bit of an edge in the lineup goes to What Am I?
Yamato sama Odyssey jarang banget bikin mistake di group stage kemarin.
Like slight edge for What Am I? But on the other hand, What Am I being kind of like the prep partner and teammate of Majin Bay. They're both on the Mastering Runeterra team, and they both prepped together, brought basically the same lineup. And we saw Odyssey smackdown Majin yesterday. So not only is What Am I playing for his fallen teammate, he's not just playing for himself, he's playing for Majin Bay, but it's also an effective redemption match because it's against Odyssey again.
Mungkin bisa Nami Zoe-nya di ban.
Odyssey, of course,
antara Nami Zoe atau Draven
I just want
Sion.
to talk a little bit more about Jordan or What Am I here. He's been such a good staple of the Legends of Runeterra
Odyssey main Veigarnya
so
perfect
long.
banget, yep.
He entered the scene, I want to say about 8 or 9 months ago as far as tournament play starting, and he was playing some very off-meta things. He was playing Endure months after it had been out of the meta with things like Battle Fury at the top end. He was playing discard aggro with Captain Farron's when no one else had that in the deck. He was playing all these aggro lists and popping off in tournament, being so incredibly strong, and then eventually he flips the script. He starts playing triple Targon at every seasonal qualifier, 9x Star Shaping, 9x Hush, and qualifying for 4 out of 5 of the top 32s, playing exceptionally. And since then, now that Targon's been nerfed, he doesn't like aggro anymore. He's like, you know what? I'll just bring the 3 best decks because I'm What Am I? I can play anything. And he's proved it time and time again in the seasonals, in the top 16 going 3-0.
Dapat hadiah emot kapan? Kayak nonton 15 menit nih.
Absolutely.
Kalian kalau mau buka YouTube-nya atau buka Twitch-nya, terus kalian buka ini, jadi kalian nonton 2 gitu ya. Yang satu di mute aja. Kita nobar ngobrol bareng di sini ya.
Except for, of course, the Nami Zoe. He's still proving himself, proving that he has the ability to be very adaptive as a player, and he won't be any more known as a Targon one trick. Then, of course, we get into Odyssey, who's
ini yang beda cuma Nami Zoe sama TFGP.
We haven't seen a lot of these, tournaments, but he's coming out of nowhere, and I love that these big tournaments are a great way for players to make names for themselves.
Yeah, and Odyssey has done just that already. He's playing exceptionally on his first day. He comes from the Thai scene, which has a lot of amazing players in Southeast Asia, with Artifi, who we saw earlier this week, but also players like Calamitas, who has done incredibly well in
Rebon Grenadier cuma bawa 1
overall, that whole Thai scene. I know I'm missing a lot of the names of such incredible players there, but he comes from a great region. He's a great player, and he has done it time and time again in this tournament. We're looking at What Am I's Draven Sion, though. Both these players have this list. This list has been popping off all weekend. It is such a powerful deck, Swim. If you want to break it down a little bit more for the people at home.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. I mean,
Aloof Travelers kok masuk ke ini ya?
Both players have dropped Poppy Lulu.
Oh, enggak, ini campur ya.
Lulu. Both players have brought Draven Sion, but the versions of Draven Sion could not be more different. Whatamai's version, which has kind of like taken the ladder by storm, is a very, very refined version, or at least, I mean, by my eyes, this looks very, very good. It's got the 3 Aloof Travelers. It's playing for kind of like an outgrind sort of game plan, not playing too many 1 health units with the 2 Poro Cannons and the 2 Boom Baboons, and is just generally going to outvalue pretty much everything. On the other hand, we see a very unconventional Scion deck from the side of Odyssey. Yeah. It's basically aggro burn melded. He's running Decimates, he's running Fervors, and it's going to be really interesting if we get to see these clash if neither of them gets banned out.
It's my kind of Scion list, Swim. You know me. You know I'm known for burn originally, right? That's my kind of deck. I see Decimates. I'm like, this is my list. This is the one I love to see. So as much as, you know, I love Whatamai, he's a good friend of mine, you know, I want this Draven Scion list to show up and I want to see it pop off. I love seeing burn pop off on the big stage, and well, we are casting it. If you've been around the grassroots competitive scene for a long time, I have quite the reputation for casting burn matchups, and generally the burn player is always high roll when I cast it. So
Namizonya di ban. Bang, dukung siapa? Dukung Sichu.
You gotta ban the burn deck.
We see some very standard bans coming out here. Odyssey banning the Zoe Nami. His lineup is pretty vulnerable to it, of course, because, you know, Zoe Nami just being a very powerful deck that Odyssey didn't really build a lineup around.
Ini Odyssey bakal buang semua tangannya. Kalau What Am I, Bundle Commando, Bundle City Mayor bakal disimpan. Lulu juga bakal disimpan. Kemungkinan Bracelet Protector bisa diganti, tapi nggak juga, nggak apa-apa.
So it being banned means that the 2 decks remaining, out of those 2 decks, he has lost a single game. It was
Lulu diganti ya.
3-1. He has been so
drawnya.
as far as the match record is concerned outside of the Zoe Nami, which has picked up a couple of losses. And we'll see if Whatamai can continue that streak against Odyssey, who also had a phenomenal group stage.
I gotta say, I'm getting shivers. I am so excited to watch this because I mean it really is effectively a rematch, right? A spiritual rematch. This is the match that Majin
bakal keluar yang itu
right
yang marah ya.
On his teammate,
oh enggak, Stone Stacker, oke.
Yeah, Whatamai's got the spirit of Majin and the rest of the Mastering Runeterra team that couldn't make it to the top 8 behind him. It's the spirits of his ancestors ready
Marahnya
to go
bisa diturunin.
This one out. He's got the double
Asik ya,
Vandal City
soal
Mayor ready to go for this opener. It's incredibly strong, and this deck from Odyssey does not have a lot of removal. So Whatamai's going to start to be able to pop off if he can get these on board. But
satunya jelek banget ya.
Being able to go pretty wide, getting a very bad miss on that Mirai Warden though, hitting the prey.
Yeah, the prey is really, really awkward. Normally, I mean, this tends to be a bit of a favorable matchup for the burn deck for Odyssey here.
Oke, What Am I bisa... dia nggak mungkin nurunin Mayor sih. Atau mungkin nurunin Mayor dan nggak ngeblok ya. Aloof Traveler bisa. Arena Kingpin juga masih bagus.
Yeah, part of me actually would love to see the Aloof picked
Aloof
up.
Traveler, ini attack semua. 21-22, 21-nya attack semua. Mayor nggak bakal ngeblok, lalu burung hantunya turun free. Next roundnya Lulunya bakal turun.
Is incredibly important for protecting your life total and allowing you enough time to get this rally down and close out the game. So we'll probably see Whatamai try and play this Aloof before we get to turn 5 and the game plan gets a lot.
Tenor of Terror bakal turun.
It's gonna be hard because you can't play it with the Mayor. So Whatamai is going to leave up an opportunity where Odyssey might be able to slam this GP on 5.
Bomber Twins bisa bagus. Oh enggak, oke.
He actually goes for it. Whatamai, a big proponent of Aloof Travelers as a card. Remember, his Draven Sound version was running 3. He thinks the card is actually just straight broken. And Casanova, I completely agree with what you said. I mean, your breakdown was perfect. Against Burn, even though, you know, normal aggro, you would just want to stabilize early. Against Burn, you have to just go to the top end because
Lulu bisa turun.
We can see the double up, we can see the gangplank, and they might get this.
Yang 0 mana juga bisa turun.
Yeah, I mean, if Odyssey doesn't lead with a gangplank, I actually think Whatamai is incredibly favored in this game. And I don't think it's always correct on your turn 5 attack token to lead with a GP, but I do wonder if Aloof Travelers is in the back of Odyssey's mind and he knows, okay, well, I do need to make sure that I get my top end down, my strongest cards
Bond Skewer.
board, so I can push this last 11 damage because yes, impact is good, but is a tenor of
Tapi kayaknya sih Yordle Ranger sih.
Cut it when you're going up on a deck that has so much explosive damage with the rallies once
Wah,
they
Odyssey
gain board
sudah
control.
susah ini.
That's the thing. I mean, Burn, you know, you conventionally see Burn as like an aggro deck, but if anything, I mean, What Am I is kind of the aggressor here. Burn is an aggro deck that slows down its pace. It's proactive, but it plays for inevitability.
Sejak kapan dia draw yang itu ya?
What Am I is going to try to
break
race him
steal
down, and
itu
honestly,
yang
with a hand like
buat
this,
tough.
especially with the rally, it looks like he might be successful.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be able to do so. The matter is, does Odyssey have enough damage to get through before that happens, right? There's 11 health on What Am I? And we see Double Up and Gangplank. These are two of the best cards for Odyssey to be able to push that damage. Does he have time to get them down?
Tadi harusnya Poison Dartnya kasih ke Lulu ya. Biar Lulunya pasti mati.
How does he win if he gets both of these aloofed? It's going to be tough. The Lecturing Yordles are really good. But What Am I has the rally. You brought it up already. The rally is sitting there. It's ready to go.
Yeah, and I mean, this full board with this full white attack with these two Battle City Mirrors, I mean, the Aloof Travelers being 2 mana 3/4 that discard those win conditions.
Gila sih ini perfect hand banget sih What Am I ya.
Odyssey might need some good puff cap luck on the draws to be able to do well here. He does know that, of course, with this attack, he knows to expect a Ranger's Resolve, but he still does have the
Ranger Resolve pasti keluar sih.
Damage.
Oh,
Yeah. And
nggak dikeluarin, Lulunya dibiarin mati. Wow.
Hold up the Ranger's Resolve. He needs board space anyways. These aloofs.
Basically a play that he's worried about a 1 health Lulu dying to a
Itu harus keluar sih siapa namanya gapingnya. Kalau enggak
basically he's not
rugi ya.
resource keeping a 1 health unit alive, which in this case, you know, we can see there's no resource that Odyssey has that would
gapingnya harus keluar.
He could have one and he could draw one.
Yeah, it absolutely could happen. I mean, this is a deck called Ping City for a reason. It's very good at dealing 1 damage. So, yeah,
bye-bye, GP.
That makes sense. Let's not leave any 1 health units around, but the
enggak itu.
gets to come out because
Ya, bye-bye, GP.
And goodbye, Gangplank. And guess what? Another one gets to come down and potentially get rid of the double up. So, Odyssey's going to have to win with this small stuff. Now, the Hidden Pathways is going to be a big draw because that's going to allow him to look for more of that top end, more of these strong cards, but What Am I has a good opportunity to get rid of all the scariest things and leave Odyssey with a bunch of low-cost pings.
Yep, exactly. A pretty perfect block by What Am I, just reducing his health down to 9 off the impact. Dart sends him to 8, and this is a game of pinches. Odyssey is here counting the numbers. Yeah. Dart goes to 8, double up could potentially go to 4. The puff cap just hit, and there's another double up. It got discarded immediately off of the Aloof.
But Odyssey has another one. That's 4 potential damage. Ranger's Resolve can try and stop it, but it can't save the Danger Noodle from dying. That's a 1/1.
Iya, dia nggak bisa nyelamatin yang ular sih.
These puff caps so badly. He doesn't draw one on this one. Can he win this turn if he can set up a good double attack? He doesn't have Lulu or Poppy, and Odyssey's at 17, so he might be out of lethal range.
Yeah, the board's just too small. Like you said, no Poppy, no Lulu. The champions that provide the biggest amount of damage are not here for What Am I. So even if he does get the 2 attacks in with the rally, all it probably does is set him up to win on a 3rd attack. But this is his token. That's full 2 turns away from actually finishing this game. I mean, I haven't been able to calculate this out, but I think Odyssey has enough to get the chump blockers down and has some spells like Pokey Stick will be able to stop something. I guess maybe not through Ranger's Resolve, but he's got some capacity to defend himself.
That's exactly right. And I mean, we can also see What Am I has no protection apart from Ranger's Resolve in his hand for double up. So all Odyssey has to do is play around Ranger's Resolve, cast double up on a 1 health unit, which means What Am I knows that he might be in a situation where he actually tries to trade off his 1 health units. The tracker won't die because of the Bright Steel's barrier, but Odyssey, if anything, wants to keep these 1 health units alive for the double up.
Okay, I expect we just see this attack. And I wonder if What Am I even does the rally this turn, or if he tries to see if he can hit something like a Poppy or a Lulu.
Dia bakal ngeblok yang 3-2.
He doesn't even try and kill off his Serpent. He went for the 0-1 first. That, to me, indicates a rally.
Odyssey, thinking about taking the Pokey Stick on the tracker. He knows the Snake is surviving anyway. And this is basically a play that says, I don't want to let a rally happen. I know that if this tracker stays on the board, it could be a problem. And of course, the Pokey Stick used now, the reason he's thinking about it now is because barrier procs before tough. So by using the Pokestick before this combat resolves, it will take off the barrier even if one of my casts Ranger's Resolve right now. And the Ranger's Resolve will not protect the tracker from the Mirai Warden. So using it now, make sure the tracker dies no matter what. Odyssey's planning to stall, and he's got to make it rain.
Found a make it rain. That can be very impactful, but I don't know. It might not be enough. He can't actually play a unit to block. I think he's actually dead swim. There's the challenge.
He can make it rain if it hits the
snake.
The make it rain doesn't quite do enough. He tried to stop as much damage as possible. But the rally is just too much.
3-6 ya kalah sih.
What am I going to grab game 1 over Odyssey in a matchup that, like you were saying, is one that Odyssey could find winnable? This is just going to get harder and harder because now he has to beat Draven's Scion twice.
Yeah. Really unfortunate thing there was the Mirai Wardens. Odyssey just got 2 basically useless units.
Gila kuat sih Lulu Poppy ya.
You can see he's not super pleased about that on his face because the Mirai Wardens, you know, the summoned units were just able to just die for free. They weren't able to force any exchanges. What am I just ended up with too big of a board?
Yeah, he just got too wide, the Eluce denying a lot of the big things, but at the end of the day, the Eluce didn't really matter as much for the discards as they did for the bodies. 3/4s are so good against Pink City because that toughness is high enough that not only
susah
can you
sih
deal with
dia lawan
the
Draven Sion
from Odyssey, but you're also going to survive the pings afterwards. There's too many 2-power attackers that still leave them as 3/2s, allowing them to survive everything.
TFGP lagi sih
in so many different ways in that matchup.
And that's exactly right. We're going to see What Am I on his other deck. And this is another 3 of Aloof Traveler's deck as he goes to his version of Aloof Scion Odyssey, staying on the burn. This is a matchup that's conventionally pretty close to even. But What Am I, a slower version of Scion, might find himself a little bit unfavored.
Yeah,
unless the Aloofs just bail him out again.
He might have a tough time early on, but we see he was able to find 1-drops, including Draven's biggest fan, which means he will have that turn 3 Draven. And because of that, I think that should be enough tools early on to stabilize. The problem is, if Odyssey continues to have that onslaught and put on the pressure, and What Am I runs out of resources. Because at least his start is good, and it just got better because he's going turn 1, Draven's biggest fan, turn 2, discarding Lost Soul, turn 3, play Draven, turn 4, play Revenant. This is an incredibly good curve for What Am I.
Exactly, and that's why What Am I's version is running 2 of the Draven's biggest fan, a card that a lot of people were running at the start, a lot of people cut down to 1 of.
Waduh, dibuang kartunya.
What Am I is running 2, and the reason for this is because in his philosophy, Scion Draven.
Wah gila sih.
If you play Draven on 3,
tangannya
you're just good.
What Am I bagus banget.
Win the game. It's like it's how this deck has been playing, and it's why this deck is so powerful. It's like Draven on 3, Scion on 7, that game is done. It's why Aloof is so scary for this deck, because even though Scion gives you like an upgrade when he gets discarded, if you lose your Scion for 7, you might lose the game. We saw it happen to Majin.
Exactly, and I mean, you might say, well, Lost Soul in the mirror match, you know, blocks the Aloof Travelers, but if you're a good player in the mirror match, you wait until their Lost Soul is discarded, and you hit their Scion.
Ini Odyssey kalah sih.
It's a really, really powerful mirror tech, and that's part of the reason why What Am I feels so favored here going into this. He just needs to win one of these next.
Maksudku Odyssey kalah sih ini.
Great, and we see him pick up 2 burn spells. This is not only going to be a threat towards Odyssey's face to counter burn, but they also allow him to remove a myriad of threats that come down. The Tenor of Terror is one of the scariest cards in Ping City for dealing damage to your face, and Mystic Shot plus Get Excited completely removes that card for just 1 extra mana. Yes, it's extra cards utilized, but if you do remove this, you're setting yourself up to be in such a good position as things go forward.
Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, right now, Odyssey is just on the beatdown game plan. He's trying to deal as much damage as fast as possible because he's on a clock. What Am I? When turn 7 hits, Odyssey knows that that Scion is coming down. What Am I is on the odds attack token, and Scion might just close out the game basically that turn, especially with What Am I's burn heavy hand.
Okay, I like gold card here because you're just trying to push as much damage as possible, and the stun onto the Draven will allow that. You also have this Pokestick backup, so you can remove
Tapi turun
the Draven
Twin Blade Revenant-nya pasti turun
or
ini.
you might draw into a Make It Rain, right? There's a lot of different opportunities. Ping City, again, we've mentioned it, right? It does 1 damage really well. The answer is just the Twin Blade Revenant, so he's just going to go for 1 block. He could have played 2 spells, but I think What Am I realizes, hey, this isn't that much damage yet. I can afford to do this.
Kenapa bukan TF-nya yang di-block ya?
On a bigger threat.
Yep, that's exactly right. And unfortunately, not able to play the Tenor of Terror this turn. Otherwise, pushing a lot more damage.
Okay, another Mystic Shot picked up for What Am I? This removal is going to be very nice. He can just utilize the Twin Blade Revenant first. Try and pick off the TF. Now, Odyssey has a decision to make. Do you protect this Twisted Fate with the Pokestick, or you just kill the Draven, let both things die, and start to refill the board? looks like that's the latter will be the answer for Odyssey.
Yep. And Odyssey in a hand state where he kind of wanted to potentially keep the TF alive because with the hidden pathways in hand, it had the potential for flip. What am I taking?
Dia bisa taruh Tenor of Terror atau 1 mana dan yang 2 mana, tapi kayaknya sih Tenor of Terror. Oh, oke. Thank you banget buat Brian baru aja ngasih 10.000 jadi flashback gini. Oke.
We are just going to see potentially the Mystic Shot onto the base of Burden. What am I really does not want to leave these alive for any time. He doesn't want to let their attacks in. We might not even see the Tenor get an attack in either. We might see a spell to deal with it on the next turn.
Yep. So, I mean, Odyssey looking pretty good here. He does need to be able to put a lot of pressure down, but his board is fairly stacked. The one thing that could make a big difference here is if Odyssey is able to draw into over the top some spell, some burn spell, I mean a double up, even a Yordle that summons the puff caps. Like the hidden pathways here is going to be so crucial, those draws, for his ability to close out this game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Lecturing Yordle has been the MVP of Ping City all tournament. And Odyssey not having one in this game for turn 4, I think is hurting him quite a bit. You would see What Am I at a much lower life total. And instead, we're going to get this
bisa di remove GP-nya.
I feel like What Am I needs to deal with this quickly. And the best way does feel like it's going to be a Get Excited plus a Mystic Shot. That is a lot of commitment going into the Gangplank. The blocks are okay though, right, Swim? If we get rid of this Gangplank with the Get Excited and the Mystic Shot, we get the Flame Chompers on board and we give it an axe, it can block something else, and we boom baboon into the Tenor, and it feels like a pretty clean board wipe where you're taking about 2 damage.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you might have to go for it here. You know, Odyssey's not going to have much of a counter response at 2 mana. What am I is thinking about it. He's covering his mouth. He's like, oh man, do I go in for it? Do I double Get Excited this Gangplank when the attack happens? Do I just like stop that overwhelm damage completely, stop the next attack? Because What Am I does know there's going to be a turn after this. We're on turn 6, Odyssey's attack. What Am I is going to get 1 attack with
Habis
Sion on turn 7.
turun.
It's going to be leveled and it's a lot of pressure, but he's going to have to survive Odyssey's turn 8, and he's thinking that far ahead. He knows that the Get Exciteds on the Gangplank might be necessary. Taking the Poro Cannon first.
Oh, just to get another block here that allows him to play still Get Excited and Mystic. This is so smart.
All right. He has the flexibility. He can block down basically the entire board.
This was the way to avoid the most damage. This is such a good play.
Yeah, because Gangplank can't level on the stack. Mystic Shot and the Get Excited just taking him down right away. And What Am I is going to take just 1 damage here from this impact.
Oh, I had him taking 3 with the line that I was looking at, and the Poro Cannon that he drew off the rummage.
Dia bakal turunin yang 1 mana itu.
He rummaged first to see if there was a
Orsernya bakal diturunin. Harusnya bakal ngedraw sih.
As crazy as Swim and I are getting over 2 damage, when you're against Pinks, that matters so much. It would not be a surprise to see What Am I live on 2 health against this deck. Even with this Scion coming down, there is 1 more aggressive turn for Odyssey.
Kayaknya harus dipakai Make It Rain ya, karena kalau enggak ditarik masuk 10 damage.
To be able to represent the clock you need against that burn deck.
Oh, di stun.
Go aggressively receive the hidden path into the Twisted Fate, and Odyssey has the gold card now if he wants.
Stun.
He can just stun it, but I think Odyssey is considering if he can do more damage, if he can find a way to push more. Is Stone Stackers plus Make It Rain going to be a better line than just stunning this Scion? Is that going to allow Odyssey to go around? It's a really tough position because yes, you think immediately like, oh, I should stop this 10-6 overwhelm from charging at my face. But is that actually the winning line is the question.
Draw TF.
Or can Odyssey
Tergantung
squeeze
ya.
out more damage and potentially end the game on the next turn with, say, a red card trying to get around?
He gets lucky. I mean, it's so close, and that's what he's tanking over right now. He knows that this gold card is getting buffed up the keg. He knows it's dealing 3 damage. He knows if he does this now, the Scion doesn't get to attack this turn, but he will have to attack on turn 8 to be able to represent pressure. And What Am I has a blocking Scion. At that point, I mean, the Scion dying rallies, and it's scary too. I think he's going over the draw. Yeah. So this is less damage, but it buys him more time.
Yeah, he goes gold card, which, like you said,
that's such a tough call.
It buys time, but it is slower when pushing on to What Am I. So What Am I is now going to have a way to try and answer, but there is at least an open attack that What Am I has to contend with, and it's still a decent amount of damage. The problem is it's not ending the game, and you just picked up a Lecturing Yordle, so you might want to develop, which is a scary prospect.
I think at this point in time, what Odyssey is thinking with that play, with a gold card there, what I would be thinking is, I hope there's no second Scion, because if we kill the Scion here, the Scion will die, it will rally, it will hit for 10 on the Scion returned, but if there's no second one, I can survive one more attack and potentially get lethal the turn after. We can see the second Scion in What Am I's hand though, of course, and if that's coming down, if this is a rally here on defense on the blocking Scion and another Scion on turn 9 next turn with What Am I's attack, then Odyssey, I don't think he can win.
Yeah, the attack got
damage.
a little awkward, right? Because Scion can block the Lecturing Yordle, it dies,
Yes.
it rallies, and this Twin Blade Revenant can block and still look for a swing afterwards. Odyssey will not have the priority back to use the dart. Yes, he has the Make It Rain, we know that, but it still is an aggressive attack that can come through from What Am I to continue to remove the board, put the pressure, and then redevelop Scion.
Exactly. Odyssey's thinking about this attack here. He knows if he attacks right now, he doesn't get the Stone Stackers. He's thinking about the odds of a unit blocking. He knows the Daring Poro is there. The reason he takes this attack now is because I think he wants to make sure the Make It Rain will hit Nexus. Right now, What Am I has 2 units on board. By attacking now, he's locking him out of another action for a 3rd unit, and this Make It Rain hits the Nexus every time, and that's pretty important.
Every
single
point of damage matters. Let's go, Swim. It all matters. Remember that
are on the same wavelength, Casanova.
Okay.
Remember that 2 from earlier, Swim, because I think it's gonna come up as we get to the end of the line of this
Aku
game.
sebenarnya bingung ya perfect play-nya kayak gimana.
And there are 2 darts.
Hai bang,
out of
wajahmu
his
mirip
hand.
sama Odyssey.
Make It Rain for extra damage. We actually see What Am I considering this getting side
Beda
over
lah.
stack to stop 2 more damage.
Yep. Just trying to stop as much damage as possible. The Corsair and the Ping is going to go through here. What Am I goes down to 8. 2 darts and a Make It Rain puts him down to 5 with puff caps, and he's rallying this turn with a second Scion in hand. I don't know, how is Odyssey going to survive the second Scion attack?
That is the terrifying thing, is can Odyssey survive that, or can he be bailed out by shrooms? Is enough damage going to go through? We have 2 right now, that's down to 8. 2 more of the darts, that's going to be going down even further. The Make It Rain, that takes us down to 5. How many puff caps are going to be in the deck? How many are going to be drawn? What is going to be the top deck? Can Hidden Pathways find more burn?
I mean, this is so close. Right now, Odyssey is looking like he's alive. We can look. The Scion return is going to be 10 Overwhelm. The Daring Poro will come out here on the rally. And right now, Odyssey does have the ability to block the Scion returned. So he's only taking a total of 9 damage. Right now, Odyssey going to slow play it. He's stopping the Poro. He's playing around second Scion, trying to starve out for value. And the Hidden Pathways in hand. I love this play.
Okay, Swim, we have to think about that 1 damage, though.
Oh my God.
Add that damage to the tally, because if that doesn't buy him another turn, then that was 1 wasted damage.
Oh,
it was
this
1 damage
block
that
is
did not
everything,
go
Casanova.
face.
He has to block this right now. He's playing around second Scion. He's thinking, is the second Scion in What Am I's hand? He blocks. He's calling the second Scion, and now he can actually survive the second Scion's attack. We know there's no more burn in What Am I's hand.
Yeah,
and
Stone Stackers can block it. Stone Stackers can stop the damage.
Into shrooms.
Okay.
That block was amazing.
Make it
Mystic shot though.
Mystic Shot
gets picked up. Is that
8.
He needs to draw something off of Pathways.
Woo!
Is enough to block. That's no way. The Stone Stackers is
played the
the
Stackers.
Mystic Shot is actually going to stop
exact.
this. Scion is dealing 7 off of this, and the Mystic Shot can clean it up.
It's exactly lethal.
Oh no!
Could have saved it. He played around second Scion for so long.
It was so close.
He played
was
around
so
it until
close.
the last turn. Until the very last turn, he played around it.
Oh,
Odyssey
that was
Wow.
a close game.
Wow, kenapa Odyssey nggak pakai 35 itu ya?
What Am I finds the 2-0, but Odyssey, he played 99% of a perfect game.
That was so close. Every single play he made was so clean. He had a shot, and there's definitely a call to not play on a Mystic Shot and go in more aggressive with Yordle.
Yeah.
You've got the kill guaranteed if you do that. It's so close, but just getting blown out by the top deck Mystic Shot at the last second.
Top deck's coming
Top deck,
in clutch.
top deck,
We've seen
Mystic
that
Shot.
happen
Oh my
all
God, What Am I
tournament,
kayak
feel like, and
top decknya
another
bagus
one
banget sih,
happening
What Am I.
here. Wow, I mean, it just looks so back and forth at the end there until the top deck happens, Swim.
Yeah. No, I mean, the top decks, the Lecturing Yordle too, and the Mystic Shot. I mean, I can tell you, I had no idea who was going to win until that top deck. Casanova, did you know?
No, because he had the stones. He played flawlessly around second Scion. I'm so like flustered and hyped. I just can't. Like, he played so perfectly around second Scion. Nobody does that. Nobody plays like that. They play for the damage to try and do enough, but he played conservatively until the last play in Odyssey. Oh my god, it sucks to lose him, but we're gonna be losing amazing players every single game in this top 8. Everyone's gonna be a banger.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I mean,
absolutely.
I just gotta
Oh.
say, big congratulations for
Odyssey
one of
sudah
mine
kalah ya.
to advance on, and I'm sure his teammate Majin is headbanging right now with joy.
The
Yeah,
revenge!
the revenge on Odyssey, who eliminated his teammate earlier.
Absolutely. I mean, let's go ahead and just pull up the bracket. Right now, what am I going to be advancing into the semifinals after an incredible 2-0 over Odyssey? Obviously, it is hard to send some of these players home, but only one will be standing in the end. I mean,
Oh my
we
God.
have so many more incredible matches heading everybody's way, so I think
Oh, ini
for
Alan
now,
Skew kayaknya.
Nova and Swim, we're gonna say goodbye to you, and we will see you a little bit later. But let's go ahead and welcome in Amazonian and Pastry Time to the broadcast to cover our next quarterfinal match. Amy, how's it going?
Going amazing. That was a crazy 2-0 for one of my.
Ini siapa lagi?
Yeah,
Pastry
Pastry Time,
Time
how about
nggak
you?
tahu.
I'm honestly feeling super good. Really excited for like the last few days of play
Amazonian.
that have happened. Obviously, Margin getting knocked out kind of feels bad, but the level of play we've seen all throughout the day and that we'll see today. Single Ilium is always rough because you do have to
Gila
see
itu
guys go
kartu
home, but that just kind of
MTG-nya
raises the
banyak
stakes
banget
and
di
increases
belakang
the
dijadiin
tension
pajangan.
of the tournament. So it's always a really exciting day. Any championship Saturday, I guess this is.
Well, I'm sure you are both so excited to get to the action, as am I. So, Amy, I'm just gonna let you introduce this next match.
Will do. So we're about to watch Alan and Cosimo duke it out. We've got Alan ZQ
Alan.
coming from Poland and Cosimo from Spain, about to go up against each other in this quarterfinal match. This is sure to be a really
Revension
tight
sepertinya
one.
auto
I
ban
actually
sih.
don't have a favored player here. I think that either one
Gantung
of these
ya.
is set to move into the next round.
Yeah, so I have the advantage of having Mogwai and Panda around for the last few days, and I was actually chatting to them a little bit before this game started. And even though I think these are two great EU players, it is definitely a tragedy for Europe that these two players have to meet now rather than later in the tournament. Obviously, they'd preferably want to meet in the finals. I think Cosimo actually has a little bit of an edge here. He's playing very much stock standard meta decks. He's playing basically 3-ofs in every single list. He's an extremely thoughtful, patient, and crisp technical player. It's the kind of player I just love actually playing in card games. But Alan is exceptionally good, maybe the best like individual talent in the region. So even though he's got the Shelfwork Spice lined up, he is extremely good as a pilot and a player. And I think on his best day, he is very challenging.
Favorite champion Karma. Wow.
Absolutely. I've seen him stream hours and hours and hours of RUNETERRA, and very rarely do I see him misplay. And Cosimo, though, has some of the
Les
three
Petites
best performing
Jedi.
decks that we've seen all weekend. Did make to the top 8. And let's see who's going to progress forward. Of course,
Wih,
I'm a big fan of this
Vinongol.
Zoe
Itu
Navi deck.
decknya
And it's been a bit of a menace in
yang
ladder.
mana 6 itu.
Wow, look at the way that it wrecks in the
Nah, ini
tournament.
Curious
Also,
Shellfock
you're a
ya
big fan of
decknya
this
itu.
deck on screen as well. The Shelffolk. This is
It's
gonna be a
undefeated.
fun one.
It's
Okay,
undefeated
that
is what it is.
That is true.
Okay. It's been banned twice, and it won the only game it wasn't banned, which means that
So-
we might actually see it get a ban here, just so there isn't this prank thievery going on. And if you haven't run into this deck before, it is a blast to play Curious Shellfolk with Ezreal Vi. You use pranks with Curious Shellfolk, as well as a couple time tricks to get duplicates of spells in your hand and recast them for cheaper than usual.
Yeah, it's not just like a sweet, fun deck. It's funny. We actually heard the dev interview earlier this morning, and they're like, "Oh, we designed Shelfberg and thought it'd be like a fun build around me that people would play, but like it would never make a serious event." And here it is in the top 8 of Worlds, maybe looking to push Alan another series forward. But obviously, Alan, like even though he does reportedly overthink his lineup sometimes, he uses
check.
some ways his own
Lore-nya kita udah masuk belum ya?
tournament preparation.
Lu di posisi
He's been
Alan
bringing
Skew
his deck because
lepas
he wants to
Nami
make
atau
people
Sion.
like
Aku lepas Nami.
We're gonna find out just how good it is by the end of the day.
Tapi tergantung ya.
But if it's getting bans, like it's kind of
Removalnya
like,
dikit. Tergantung kalau banyak removal bisa ini. Oke, lootnya sudah masuk guys. Nah, itu. Oke, yang di ban itu kan Revention ya.
Does get it, and unfortunately, Amy, I have bad news for you. it is going to be.
Udah masuk guys.
Banned, yes, and Cosimo's Draven Scion deck is also banned, leaving the players with a Sivir Akshan Demacia, Caitlyn Draven Tribeam up against Zoe Nami spells and the Bandle City Ping deck
Mana tadi?
in TF.
Yeah, this kind of makes sense. Like Alan has like a really good spread of decks, right? Like Shellfolk can go pretty late, but is like kind of high-end mid-range. So Akshan is obviously like very much classic mid-range, but can kind of smash your facing with rallies and just leveled up Sivir and Akshan's palaces popping off. And then Caitlyn Draven, this is, you know, in the vein of the Ezreal decks, is, oh my goodness.
Oh, okay.
We're hopping right into the match. So it looks
Okay,
like
dia nggak draw Nami.
turn a Fleet Feather Tracker into a Bright Seal Protector, giving Alan
Mampus sudah kalau nggak draw Nami. Mampus.
Already. We managed to
Aku
see
sudah
that
bilang
swing
deck
right
deck
when it
Nami
happened.
Zoe itu jeleknya
But
itu ya.
Cosimo with no early units in hand, no Zoe, no Nami, really just have to dig, not even a double trouble to fill up this board with some 1-drops.
Yeah, that was the note I had too. This looks really rough for Cosimo. Like, this deck passes a lot in order to level up its Nami as efficiently as possible. Do you typically pass on 1 and 2? Which obviously, if you're Alan playing this like deck that wants to get on the board early and smash your face in, is a super good thing. But we're gonna have to play something here. Looks like a removal spell line-up's gonna be the choice.
Buang yang burung harusnya.
Knock him down. You see an opportunity there. Actually, we might see a full pass here. Cosimo debating not using the line up here to its full potential. You don't need to use up this powder cake right away. It does stick around. It can be challenged in combat, but for right now, it's just a damage enhancer.
Yeah, I think maybe he's trying to figure out what's pump spell he can play around. There isn't Ranger's Resolve in Alan's list, so it's just Sharp Sight, really, and Riposte, I guess, the one of, as ways to protect whatever unit you go for, and Shapestone, I guess, is the other one. Maybe that's what he's debating, actually. Do I want to play around Shapestone by trying to kill the 2-1, or am I just going for the, you know, the maximum in air quotes and trying to kill this 3-2? I mean, this cake...
Dia nggak mungkin end sih, itu pasti dipakai sih.
Combat can beat it. Obviously, all the pump spells that Alan have pretty much beat this as well. And looks like Cosimo is going to play around at least what he can. And Alan lets it go.
And there goes the Fleet Feather Tracker. Not going to be challenging anything today. And now Cosimo
dia nggak keluarin Merciless Hunter-nya. Oke, Sivir turun. Masuk 8 damage.
He has the attack token, which means he wants to get this damage down quickly.
Yeah, this feels great if you're Alan, right? Your opponent passed the first 2 turns. Now gonna have to gifts for probably a removal spell here.
Stun?
Don't think Sparklefly is getting it done with no help from Shelly or Sparkle. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Cosimo looks like he is going to pull that out of the deck, of course, with Crescendum. Sparklefly is the only thing.
Masuk 8 damage.
Alan's like, yeah, not so fast.
GG.
First.
This is a
Habis ini bisa di ada subside.
Cosimo already down to 7.
Santai ada subside.
Right, this is very much I want to rip Nami. That's not Nami, so now Shelly has to get it done. Obviously, way harder to build up one unit with Shelly than it is with Nami, but Cosimo needs to live, and he needs to gain a lot of life in order to live here. So
Shelly keluar, dia bakal keluarin Merciless Hunter sih.
You're gonna have to do the best you can with what you've got, which is this Sparklefly and the Shelly you have in hand.
The Sparklefly and Shelly, though, also don't leave a lot of options for the 2 spells being cast. Spell Thief currently does not have anything to steal. As far as I know, there's been that Sharp Sight sitting in hand but never cast.
I believe that's correct. We can like Sherlock the first 2 turns with the units coming in.
Yes, we did not see them, but I'm pretty sure it was just Fleet Feather Tracker,
Pasti
straight into
turun sih
Bright Steel
itu.
Protector. Bright Steel Protector still hanging out on the board too. And here comes Treasure Seeker, gonna get a bit of Waking Sands in hand to try and get maybe an even more aggressive hit next turn. Alan, of course, wants to close out this game before that Sparklefly grows.
Yeah, it's actually mono units, which, thinking back to that line 'em up, knock 'em down that Cosimo had to play, it's actually really like extra clever for Alan to not play a pump spell there, because you turn on Spell Thief, which is a very cheap 1-mana burst spell that potentially gives you.
Dia harus simpan 3 mana untuk nyuri subside ya.
Your tracker go when your opponent's hand is clearly quite weak makes a lot of sense. But the
you don't
knock-on
need
effect,
to hold on to a 2-1 when your opponent doesn't have anything to remove.
Right, but it literally turns off Spell Thief. You can't even cast it for nothing. So that's a really heads-up play if Alan thought that far ahead here.
So here we're going to see The moon weapons cycling through here, getting the second Sparklefly from the deck. And Merciless Hunter is going to
Mungkin dikasih.
threaten the first, granting it vulnerable. Of course, there is a sharp sight in hand. We may see the sharp sight into a block. And in fact, we will. We are seeing Sivir with the sharp sight sitting in front of the non-vulnerable Zoe.
Yeah, each player has a sharp sight as well, remember, because there is a spell thief and 3 mana available for Cosmo. So I like giving it to the biggest unit there. See if it can just get it away.
Shelly dah nyerah pasti abis ini.
And we talked about Shelly, like that was a board where Shelly could have been good, but unfortunately, I didn't think Cosmo was going to get a chance to put it on the stack.
No, and right now, even with an open attack, Alan is putting on the pressure, but there are Waking Sands in hand, and I believe that Sivir's about to level up.
Okay.
With both of these as 1/2s, yes, they have the lifesteal, but if there's quick attack granted across the board, the lifesteal does not go off.
It's true, we'll see if the Sivir is going to level and kind of turn that all on. Also, obviously, dragging the lifesteal unit to the far right of the combat. Making sure
Mau ngeblok Sivir, mati, terus nggak bisa. Ini posisinya bagus banget dari Alan Q ya.
Alan knows what's up. His opponent's hand has been extremely soft, and there's no Nami, so it probably is Shelly and a handful of spells, so just want to make sure
ini bagus banget sih. Kalau ngeblok Sivir tetap mati.
Values you can't really compete with, and yeah, it's gonna have to be, I guess, sharp sight for a bit of extra lifesteal here.
Oh, bisa ngeblok ini sih.
Sharp sighting.
I think he can live, because you can do this again if you really need.
5 masuk 3.
I think he must know where in combat the Sivir does level up. Because if the Merciless Hunter gets that quick attack first, then it wouldn't work. So, there we go. Sivir leveling up. The final Sparklefly will just be dying here and not healing up. And there's another 3 damage through. Cosimo down to 2.
And again, like, very tight play for Cosmo, right? Recognizing exactly where in the combat chain things are going to happen. Alan lined up the combat nicely as well.
Oke, draw.
Here's Shelly. There are no Sparkleflies.
Ya nggak butuh Aksan sekarang.
Double Preservarium. Oh man, Cosmo, this is such a rough
game. Double trouble.
So Cosimo did just get away to go wide though. A double trouble.
Kalah sih Cosimo harusnya.
Shelly into double trouble and another spell. That way both of these Shellys will be active and they'll both be building up these small units and each other.
Yeah, I think when you start playing this deck, you're like, oh, like it's so easy. Plan A is just like get a Sparklefly and then nominal Shelly makes it like 10 power and you win every game easily. And then when you play the deck, you're like, oh, that's actually kind of hard to do. And you realize Plan B is go wide and get a board pumped up with either nominal Shelly. And then there's Plan C, which is try and win with like anemic elusive units by the thinnest of margins where your opponent's trying to kill you in everything you play. Cosmo's on Plan B right now, which is a good place to be, but Plan C is coming up quick because Alan's board is still very terrifying.
While this is a good amount of elusive damage, the flight, if it strikes Nexus, will end up back in the deck. You've put those buffs on it, but it will just be wiped
Harusnya
and
Alanski bisa menang sih ya.
into the library. We don't want to see that happen. Cosmo, of course, not threatening lethal here, just getting in 8 damage from the double Shelly. But Alan with so much damage on the backswing here.
This is 0 value Akshan, just Palace explodes off the board, doesn't even care about it.
Never
attack.
0 value when it comes to Akshan.
Nami!
An Akshan on the board is worth an Akshan in a hand. It means that the second one has turned into an Absolver?
Grappling
no,
hook.
the strike up there, the grappling hook, yes. And there's also still a shaped stone. I feel like with Sivir granting these buffs, there is no way for Cosimo to survive. No amount of healing and hushing can get through this spell shields.
Nice.
Yep.
And game 1 going to Alan.
And that's exactly how you drew it up, right? When you
Ya Nami keluar pas dah mau kalah. Itulah jeleknya deck Nami ya. Makanya aku nggak terlalu senang sama deck Nami.
Potentially pointing a removal spell at every single unit you play, but that's better, easier said than done.
Naminya kelamaan ngedip. Terlalu dalam ya. Naik ke atas kurang
had a
cepat.
really great draw. Cosmo's draw definitely not panning out in that particular game, and it's one of the reasons people say Zoe Nami is a risk, right? The deck does defeat itself sometimes. It's not the most consistent pile of cards when you do have to draw pretty specific pieces in order to go off. That being said, I think it does reward you for playing very well, and it can eke out wins with plans B and C, or maybe there's a secret plan D I'm not aware of.
Nami punya secret keyword too deep. Jangan gitu dong guys.
Well, we all know what the secret plan D is
Jangan
for
gitu,
Alan's
guys.
next deck, the Tri-Beam deck. It's to get
Oh,
those
baby.
snap vines go
yeah.
wide. We saw that happen yesterday. That was some
Salah, kepencet
great
saya.
gameplay right there. And Cosimo, we're seeing hopping right into the game here, is on
Oh, ganti deck dia ya.
Bento
Oke.
City Bilgewater
Nami
Ping
masih
deck
nemenin
now.
Nautilus.
You've heard it called Ping City before. It's very good at dealing
Seperti
one
perasaanku
damage
pada
at a
dia.
time.
Oh my god.
No more, no less. Exactly one.
Jangan gitu dong.
Many of cases.
Bentar,
Hey, you do
bentar.
it 20 times, you win the game.
That is true. You only have to do it so many times. There is, of course, no healing in Alan's deck here. I guess you could maybe flip a Tri-Beam unit with lifesteal or something. There's always a way when you're playing Tri-Beam, I feel like. But this is a good start again for Alan. Draven on curve is always what you want to see. Oh, stick to the face, though, from Kosovo. Gotta get that GP level up happening.
Every turn you can't
Oke.
attack, especially when you can't
Ini
attack into something that
tergantung
gives you
sih, masih bisa
guaranteed
kalah sih Alan skill.
impact trigger. It
Akhirnya ya suara temennya yaitu Nami suka ngedip.
up on GP on turn 5 if it's possible. You can't always do it, but if you
Thermogenic
enjoy it,
beam.
you can.
Yeah, definitely on the... Oh, that beam
Mati.
is so close.
Dor.
Oof. Thermo beam just taking out the lecturer. Still gonna see a poison dart. To
Abis
the
ini bisa
Nexus.
keluar,
Alan getting a couple mushrooms
GP.
shuffled onto his guards.
GP-nya bisa keluar.
Yeah, the porta pot, though, is, as you mentioned, Gangplank has kind of been the card of the day whenever we see this deck. I feel like every time we see it, it's like, do they have GP? Does the enemy have aloof travelers? Obviously, I don't think Alan has access to that card. And this
GP
deck
keluar,
will
mati
take back
GP-nya.
Scott 3 times. Never mind. Kosovo, you gotta
Ooh.
get it happening quickly. Don't have any in hand right now. But aloof travelers is ready to take out the double GP that's hanging out in Kosovo's hand. So you can see why Kosovo is playing so aggressively to level up this Gangplank, right? He knows that that's his primary plan in most of his games, and definitely in this game with the texture of this hand.
Get that GP.
GP
on the
keluar,
battlefield
mati.
Now. It needs to be one of your units before it ends up discarded.
Mungkin bakal pas sih.
So got to worry about
Atau keluar
damage as
Yordle,
well. GP
Lector
with
Yordle.
and an axe is not
Kasian
gonna
banget
last very
Cosimo,
long.
tangannya jelek banget.
So you kind of want to go wide on this board, but if you get aloof next turn, it's going to feel bad. I think, given that he already played the Revenant, Cosimo is going to feel pretty safe here to play a non-Gangplank unit and then play GP next turn, but you also want to consider...
Evan saatnya nabang, pinjam
do I need
kunci
to get
Inggrisnya
that
dong
damage
buat
to try and level up this
kencengin
Gangplank
banget.
now. So I feel like the debate is Tenor versus Yordle right now, lecturing Yordle, and it's a matter of, do I need this Poison Dart, or do I need to go wider and start blocking some of these units? And it looks like lecturing Yordle is going to be the answer here.
So lecturing Yordle, a very effective blocker here, is able to sit in front of either of these, but with a second spinning axe in hand, we can just see it removed by the Revenant. So there's the Revenant grabbing it in combat,
Nice.
and Draven swinging in with the axe buff. That gives Draven half of a level up.
Abis ini
Only
bisa
needs to
level up
strike one more
Dravennya.
time while holding one of those spinning axes, and he's good to go.
Yeah, real nice there. It feels so good. Your opponent hasn't been able to really get on board too early. I mean, you're winning the damage race in this matchup, which is definitely not how you expect the early game in this matchup to go. Cosimo is basically set up to try and flip this GP as early as he can. Although Alan's like absolute.
Dia sudah gendong Pikachu tuh loh, Cosimo itu loh.
Can't feel too good. And I think Cosimo has to know there's at least half of those are spells, because he's only played a Draven and a Revenant that got flipped off this Lost Soul after this Chompers, I guess, got put into play last turn. So aren't a lot of units that Alan is committing to the board right now, which means it's just Removal City over there.
But going wide isn't that necessary when you have a unit that just keeps coming back. The Lost Soul into the Revenant, into the Lost Soul into the Revenant here.
Yeah.
There's going to be endless value, especially with it helping protect
Lost Soul
this
terlalu
Draven
kuat
in
sih.
combat, letting the Draven just keep hitting face.
Pretty critical turn here for Cosimo. I don't think the GP is leveled right now, and he doesn't have a way to ping before combat to level it up. It looks like 10 is going to be the target instead. It's so awkward. Like,
Kayak bakal langsung
you need to
ditembak.
attack, because like that's what your deck does. But this doesn't feel like a particularly fun spot to attack in.
No, and Cosimo's deck is not very good at dealing 3 damage all at once, not without using multiple spells or having a barrel out from GP. So right now, this Draven looks pretty safe.
Yeah, it would just be double up. Actually, it doesn't even do 3. You have to
No,
go barrel.
the double, you'd have to
bisa
have
untuk
something like
nanti
a
sih
pokey
itunya.
stick into it, but of course,
Soulnya.
with only 3 mana left.
Target dibuang
Not many
sama
options.
axe-nya.
definitely one of the things about this deck that can be tricky. It doesn't really want to interact with, even medium-sized units, right? It's all about just attacking and pinging, and the mushrooms and the impact all add up to 20, right? That's the goal.
That's all they need to do. And sometimes it just comes down to drawing one mushroom and ending the game. So here we're seeing a spinning axe on the Draven.
Pusing sih Cosimo.
The Revenant, so that is both
Gini kalaupun attack, Dravennya bisa langsung level up
if
sih.
If you swing in, I can block with my Draven, and he levels up.
Yeah, I think you have to maybe just send it here, but it doesn't feel good. You have 3 impact units, but Draven's gonna level. This 2-blade Revenant can trade again, then Lossel goes back, and then another axe, of course, is coming out, so then it just comes back into play. Like, this is tough. Like, this draw basically lined up perfectly. Cosmo couldn't get under the Twin Blade Revenant.
Altsky bagus banget drawnya.
Lossel / Twin Blade Revenant is the engine that may come to define this world championship.
Gak attack ya, takut Dravennya level up. Jago sih Altsky.
Cosmo with 3 impact units just passes it back.
That's missing out on a plunder trigger, and also burning that axe. I think the axe though did get value. It was the cause of
tarik yang satu,
for this Revenant.
Dravennya itu tarik yang
okay. It's pretty big here because it helps to dictate how this battle is going to play out. With Draven once again swinging in what it feels like a fairly uncontested spot.
Yeah, it's a great open out of Alan. I mean, you only have a Sump Dredger, which isn't going to add too much to this board. You're basically able to play reactively because you're generating axes every combat. You have Lossel Twin Blade Revenant online permanently right now because your opponent can't remove this Draven.
Dia bisa turun, tapi pokoknya turun GP langsung mati sih.
Every possible way in this region combination to kill it. So it's going to have to be hidden pathways, but that double up looks a little too late here.
That's an awkward battle here, too. So if GP comes out, we could see a follow-up with a double up, the barrel bringing it up to 3 damage and getting more face damage in. But that still is... It feels awkward. That's what it feels like. It feels like a kind of maneuver that you don't necessarily want to do. You don't want to use your GP just to enable your removal, but I don't think that it's the worst move. I think that taking out this Draven before it levels up is huge, and I think that also, on top of that, stopping this Draven from hitting you for 3 every single turn needs to happen. Cosimo's down to 10 Nexus health.
Yeah, so I think the thing here is that GP must not be leveled.
Di antara GP mau turun atau enggak sih?
Just play the GP, make a keg, untap, let another keg happen, and then get in there and hope and deal 3 to everything, right? And then you've actually dealt 3 damage and you've dealt with the board, which is extremely hard for this deck to do otherwise. But Cosimo, I think, is probably 1 away.
Okay, terus dia bisa make it rain.
For the double keg. Maybe
we might see the double keg into next turn, make it rain.
Well, I like that, actually. Twin Blade Revenant, though, back down, but that is a nice setup. This is the one Make It Rain Cosmo has, so he's going to have to make it count here.
I'm a big fan of Make It Rain in almost every matchup. I feel like it's a 3-0
Atau dia bisa double up.
decks. So actually passing here, banking the mana, and now Cosimo left with a tough decision. Swinging in, using this Make It Rain, maybe even buffing it up, playing Gangplank as well. There is 8 mana, which means there's just enough to get out this
punya ini ya, punya aloof travel.
Get that double up going too.
Yeah, I wonder if TF changes your plans at all here.
TF is nice because it does let you do some cheeky things like gold card, red card.
Red card
but
seems kind of nice here.
You and I see that not 1 but 2 get excited in Alan's hand.
Yeah.
That barrel can be sniped.
Oh, I think
Dia bisa aloof traveler.
This is actually really nice. I mean, he knows his opponent has a removal spell, right? So you have to kind of do 2 things here. GP is a little slow, especially if he's not level, because he has to attack to get it in there. So I think, yeah, the TF's going to open up this sweep. The keg's going to target it. He's going to hope that this Make It Rain is good, which unfortunately we know is not going to be the case.
But you're going to have to use double removal if you want to do that. We might see the swing first here to clear out the board a little bit. This is very strange because you need one of your units to die or you need to replace one of them. But you have essentially slow speed, TF, red card. And if that gets stopped by a get excited on the stack, then you get to have the make it rain, which is only a 1 in 3 chance of missing here. And of course, the big target you want to hit is the Draven and, of course, the Revenant. So here's actually Sump Fumes starting the
this
attack.
is gonna be brutal. I mean, I was trying to stitch it together.
There's the get excited too.
Get excited,
Oh, no. And also, Twisted Fate. You see him hiding in the corner. He is on the board.
Yes. Don't worry. You see that little space between the one drop and the kegs? That's where Twisted Fate's currently hanging out, and he's about to be very sad when these powder cakes explode without killing this plethora of X3s that Alan has over on the other side. I mean, again, I was like trying to figure out the GP build your own board wipe situation.
Dikasih.
Found a great line to get to this point, but unfortunately, just again, like every removal spell in the book, plus then some for Alan on the other side, and that play was going to be very tough to get through successfully. And now Costumer's attack, I think he just can't even attack again, which is like wild given what this deck wants to do. I mean, Costumer is like 10 to 12. He's losing the damage race when he wants to be ahead on board, and he's also down in cards. So like that should kind of tell you everything you need to know about how these first turns are going. Costumer's draws have not paid
Ada apa kok bagus?
Alan is on the precipice of pushing himself to a semi-final.
Banyak kok.
Alan, though, only has
Abdurrahman
2
Hafiz.
health on both units on the board. Does make blocking a little bit tricky here, can definitely take some trades, but the Draven dodged there. We saw that make it rain was like, I'm just going to happily skip over Draven. I don't need to kill this champion. I'm gonna skip over it, which meant that Alan didn't need to stop all those barrels.
I wonder if
Kok aku agak aneh sama bloknya Alan Skill ya.
I'll level the Draven, right? You have a pretty free discard here with that Lost Soul back in hand after the Revenant died to the Make It Rain, which is actually kind of nice.
Dravennya bisa ngebloknya satu-satu harusnya.
Even if he trades here, but I don't know if you need to. It looks like he's gonna take that land block.
Ya, kayak catur. Atau yang kanan bawah itu kayak catur.
And go for the level on Draven. Getting Draven level, that means he's dealing more damage and generating more axes, more discard fodder, and he's got Overwhelm.
And I feel like to me what this really signals is that you know,
Sionnya,
because that's all this axe has done all game, which is, you know, the whole engine of the deck. Oh, Flock here as well after the Sentry Stun, and again, like, Cosimo's board is every single turn, he's just battling.
Aloof Traveler bisa turun.
Twinblade Revenant, he's losing a unit every turn, he's losing health every turn, his opponent's getting access and just holding onto all their removal spells. Like, he hasn't needed to play most of the spells in his hand, because Twinblade Revenant has just been a removal store every single time.
Kartu tinggal 1. Darahnya tinggal 5.
Blade Squire, yes, it's a blocker, but it's not much else.
Yeah.
It's time for Alan to get a very nice swing in. And finally, a Tri-Beam and Propagator did show up in hand for Alan. And, we also see the Academic here, able to get even more spells from the deck.
Bisa kalah sih Alan Skill.
5. So that last attack did actually have like a purpose, despite how much control Alan has of this board, obviously, because we can see the hands and we know he's been
tinggal main game saja. Tinggal 5, Alan Skill harus hati-hati sama double tap ya. Alan nggak peduli, misal buat bersihannya nggak masuk akal.
Cosmo doesn't need to do that much more. He has this double up in hand. That is a
Mokwai ikutan nggak turnamen ini bang? Enggak ya. Mokwai casternya.
We might even see the classic get excited your own Draven line from
Alan kalah sih ini, kayaknya sih enggak ya.
Yeah, so right now Alan needs to kill Cosimo before a buffed up double up happens. And with the ability to kill your own unit with those get exciteds, you do kind of have a way out. But that's also quite nice. We see a thermo beam off of this unit, but Cosimo now has the opportunity to land either the Lecturer or the Tenor or the Gangplank. The Gangplank should be leveled up at this point of the game. I see no possible way that he isn't.
Yeah, so I think what Cosimo is going for is, like, all I have to do is live this turn.
Yeah, benar.
Maybe let this Poison Dart rip and then slam his GP and just attack, right? Because I'll find enough damage And if Alan taps low to try and deal with the board, then double up can finally deal the last few points.
Itu thermogenic beam-nya bakal dibuang sih.
Double up into all this unopened mana.
Thermogenicnya bakal dibuang
You're asking to,
buat ngasih attack ke Draven.
You have to block right. You can't really afford to take damage. I think TF living is nice. This is a decent, annoying threat with quick attack when you're attacking, and maybe if the game goes super late, it can level. Although I think with all the removal, that's pretty unlikely. But Cosimo sees like enough turns ahead where he knows he doesn't have to deal that much more damage, and I think he's got it all mapped out. So I'm very curious to see how he handles this Gangplank clip, especially because he kind of needs to dodge the removal, and this
agak aneh ya mainnya Alansky ya.
Tension is going to be really interesting to watch unfold this turn, especially because the thermo beam is fleeting.
Cosimo bisa menang sih.
Dart on face, bringing Alan into lethal range off of just double up. But of course, Alan's still passing, holding up enough for the get excited on his own units.
Yeah, it's kind of baiting the GP as well, but Cosmo also has double GP.
Wow.
So I don't think he even minds that much if this one dies. Gonna make it cake. GP is definitely leveled at this point. So this is a huge threat, right? It's not just a like, oh, like my board's gonna go away. It's like your face is gonna go away.
Your face is gonna go away because Cosimo turns around and attacks here.
Yeah.
There's not enough to stop.
GP-nya harus dimatiin sekarang sih.
Probably the thermo beam used as removal, because otherwise the overwhelm on its own is lethal.
Thermogenic beam-nya pakai bunuh. Yep.
There it is. There's the fleeting thermo beam. 6 mana for 6 damage. The perfect 1-to-1 ratio.
Seru sih ini.
6-6 overwhelm with no blockers in sight when he kills them all by popping that keg, right? Obviously great for GP, but you just need a couple points of damage here. This is 2 kegs already built up.
And that's also another Twisted Fate in hand. And with the direct damage off of even something like a red card, if this one dies somehow, if everything gets cleared out, that could be game.
I think Cosimo has this game.
I think Cosimo.
Yeah, Cosimo bisa menang
has
ini.
the damage through. I mentioned near the start that it's all about getting through 1 damage at a time.
Padahal tangannya Cosimo jelek loh awalnya.
Yeah, this Electro Yoda can't be allowed to attack, by the way.
Once it attacks, oh yeah, it's just like, ooh, a free poison dart. So there's the Ravenous Lock on the Yordle, plus a double get excited on Gangplank.
Means the kegs live and you can't. You're out of. Okay, you're not out of removal for this double up because you have Scorcher in hand because you're an absolute wizard.
Dia masih punya Sorcerer Art untuk ngekill unitnya sendiri sih.
This TF still doing some damage. These kegs can hang around for a little bit. The GP's gonna die. Yordle's gonna die. These kegs are looking kind of spooky. Did keg work with mushrooms, Amy? Do you know that interaction? Are we at that point of the game now?
Oh, jeez. I don't believe that they do. I believe that you need to have a spell or an ability that is going on there, like getting the skills out there.
Yeah, of note, it doesn't work with impact either, which would be a really cool way for Tenor to have a lot of pressure on this board. But it's scary. Like, your opponent has even like a pokey stick at this point.
And there they come. So no matter what, there's going to be damage coming through. There's no removal. Even if you block, these two are getting the damage in. And as I mentioned before, if the Twisted Fate dies, there's another Twisted Fate in hand, which can just red card for lethal.
Is the Reforge good here?
No.
How late it is. No, he's shuffling it away, so it's not good.
Oh no, he's shuffling away.
Di shuffle.
He's just going for the highest number of possible outs next turn, using pick a card to shuffle back in that weapon. Oh,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, I don't
no TF attack.
I mean, Draven just stonewalls TF at this point, so I like that. I mean, you know that you're just sending the tenor and the bass in. You know, the choir's going through.
The choir's going through.
Salah.
You can't stop it.
How many shrooms are in Alan's deck? I've seen at least 2 dots played, so it has to be at least 6, but it might be 9 or 12.
I think it is 9.
Yeah, 9's like the average, I feel like, for this deck, but 2 points left, no healing. Still 2 kegs, and the double up in hand, by the way. Cosmo has played so patiently to keep this last little bit of damage on.
And
the pokey stick!
Many axes in hand, but pokey stick, fleeting pokey stick, that's lethal.
No mushrooms, so
every piece of removal in Alan's hand is conditional or it's slow. And it's just not going to work against this pokey stick. We may even see something like the double up,
Oh, menang.
and the
Menang
poke stick
Cosimo.
saying like, you better sub both.
And this is the thing, right? You
Menang
look at
Cosimo.
Piltover and you assume Mystic Shot. This deck doesn't have Mystic Shots in it. It's Sump Fumes, which we've seen one of already. It's the Get Excited, which we've already seen.
Menang Cosimo.
Yeah, you're right. Everything else is a Flock, a Thermo Beam, a Scorched Earth, or Tri-Beam, right? Slow or conditional.
And Alan sees almost all of the cards, or Cosimo sees almost all the cards in Alan's hand. It was the spinning axis.
Yeah, I mean, he sees every angle. Even without stuff being revealed, he knows what's up. He has played so patiently, and I think that's it.
We're gonna see Scorched Earth here, killing the Draven.
Oh no.
But leaving you open to the evil menace of a Yordle with a stick. Imagine having a Yordle come up to you and just poke you to death.
Wow.
That is how Alan is gonna go down in the second game. Cosimo with the win, and now they're
Cosimo bisa menang loh.
3. They're on
Nggak
their
nyangka
final
loh.
decks. We're going to be seeing Alan on the same list and Cosimo on his final deck.
Wow.
Super impressive out of Cosimo there. That draw looked
Wah, Nami ini bahaya ini. Tapi harusnya bisa lah pakai Draven. Tapi Alaski waktu itu kalah kan, gara-gara dia ngedrop Draven.
Was behind by 6 life for most of that game, but you said it, Amy. This deck just deals 20 damage. Sorry, deals 1 damage 20 times. And Cosimo figured that out.
But Cosimo is now going to
Iya gila, Cosimo sabar banget ya. Kalau kita udah dari tadi pakai removal ya.
It betrayed him. He did not get a Zoe, a Nami. He had to wait until like turn 5 to get a Shelly. It was
Oke, paling nggak dia punya double trouble.
No double troubles. Cosimo struggling in that first match and going for a hard mulligan here.
Tangannya jelek lagi.
Verbal fish. Oh, but they're drawing a double trouble. Not bad to start the game.
That's how you know he's a
Zoe.
good player, you know, Mulligan's a double trouble, picks one up
And
right on
gets a
time.
Zoe. Oh, always had it.
Zoe, when you have the attack token, is a very common play I've noticed. I don't think there's like little extra RNG in the game, but it does seem like whenever you get the attack
Oke, Draven turun.
the top of the deck.
Oh, Caitlyn yang turun. Oke.
So getting down the turn 3, Caitlyn going to start booby trapping the deck, and Caitlyn's flash bombs are quite good at removing the small elusive units, things that are got off of Warden's double trouble, and of course
Moonblow
Sparkle
harusnya.
Flies, just kind of with randomness. But once they start getting buffed, they're out of that range, and it's much more about things like Scorched Earth.
Yeah, early on though, Caitlyn is a great bit of pressure here. Like even this attack, you obviously can't block. It's a 3-3 quick attack. But if you just randomly get flash bumped, it feels so bad to have your Zoe just annihilated by a random trap that Caitlyn put in your deck. So,
Caitlyn, why do you gotta be like this? You ever just like walk into brush and you're just like, oof, I just got a TP back, and then boom, trap. There goes your last 100 life and you're dead.
Yeah.
Attack, pasti dikasih.
Cosimo set up here with this double trouble next turn. See how close Nami or Shelly is to the top of the deck. But Zoe's days feel numbered.
Gue nggak paham jir mainnya deck Zoe. Gue pakai Rek'Sai Enjoyer. Oh mantap.
Oh, two X1s. I guess maybe you're trying to protect the Zoe.
Thermogenic Beam.
I think Cosimo's trying to maximize the banked mana, trying to say, if I get my Nami, I want her leveled up, maybe not on turn 4, it might be a little too late for that, but turn 5, good enough. Then I could start getting these buffs immediately.
Wow.
Adding more to the board too. It's gonna eat a Thermo, Sparkle Fire.
Thermonya ke Sparkle Fire ya, bukan ke Zoe ya.
Can't blame him. Flash bomb? Any flash bombs in chat? Oh.
Oh! Wow! Hit the Zoe! Right as another Zoe
Oh my
drop,
god!
I should say. But it did, just as you said, just gotta snipe that Zoe.
Zoe-nya bisa di stun.
His face kind of says it all there, the player can. I mean, of course Zoe comes off the top when that happens, because Zoe always arrives on time. She is quite a powerful wizard, it appears.
Well, she is a spirit, and she's a quite strong one at that. So we're gonna see Get Excited here on the Zoe. She's not going to get...
Kok di block sih sama Caitlyn-nya? Aku bingung deh.
Star charts for her.
Oh my
Cosimo
god.
passing back, banking the 3 spell mana,
That's a good
and drawing Shelly.
I was gonna say Cosimo needs a good draw here, because he's kind of set up to, play this double trouble and then try and level up that board. Revenant, of course, is going to control a lot of it. Alan's plan in this matchup, I assume, has to be to just kill every little unit your opponent plays. That's typically the plan in these kind of matchups where your opponent's trying to like build up a board and buff it all up. If you just kill everything at its easiest point when the toughness is the lowest,
dia jaga-jaga untuk Shelly.
The astute academic, I'm a big fan of both of those here. There's a lot of card draw and a lot of card generation for this deck, but what they aren't is elusive. They're also not life-stealing. Cosimo always wants to see things that are in that vein to get through the unstoppable damage and get a little bit of tempo staying alive. But with just Shelly and no Nami, it gets even harder to do. And there's just enough mana here for a Shelly into a double spell.
Yep.
Unfortunately, won't get the attune value, but I think you're going to have to accept that fate. Maybe not. The patience perhaps exercised here by Cosimo. I'm doing a lot of math right now. It's very complicated with Bevel Fishes being reduced and attune mana having to be calculated, and you have to like think what's in the Spell Thief pool. I don't think there's an axe in the pool. I think it's actually only Get Excited right now, Cosimo, which obviously is a very expensive spell, so probably not one you want to play if you're trying to, you know, proc Shelly. I think if you're playing her this turn, she needs to proc twice for you to feel really good about your position. So if you can't do that, I think Cosimo's just going to have to just pass it back here at some point. We do have two of them, so maybe you test your opponent, see if they have a removal spell. We know that Alan doesn't have one right now, but Cosimo has to expect that, you know, one of a million spells like we saw last game is just hanging out in the hand.
This is tough, though, for Cosimo. Not getting those extremely strong opening hands. Did draw the Zoes, but both of them were killed. One from a random attack from the trap, and the other one from Get Excited. Alan, of course, waiting here, doesn't feel too pressured against these two units, and knows that if there's a pass back to him, he can always just right back, skip the turn, and force Cosimo to burn so much of that 6 mana gone.
Yeah, 6
Okay.
spell.
Caitlyn turun.
Just has to be patient here. Cosimo needs a really good turn with this Shelly, and last turn was not going to be it, so he passes back again. Gonna eat quite a lot to the dome here, it looks like.
Ini bakal langsung attack semua sih
Yeah,
harusnya.
not great at blocking these quick attack units here. And here comes the attack. Caitlyn, Draven, and the Revenant swinging in. The Gearhead is able to jump block here. And it can even, you know,
Shelly turun.
do a little bit
Tapi
more.
si Alans bisa ngedraw ya. Buang 2 ini.
But no, instead, just taking 6 to the dome.
Oh, tapi dia udah punya vlog. Jadi bisa di stun terus di vlog.
And you want to save all your spells to try and proc them. Unfortunately, you don't have the best units to buff up.
No, he also doesn't have 2 Shellys down because last turn did the full pass and ended up not having
Dia
an
bakal
opportunity
di stun turn di vlog sih menurutku ya.
really, really rough. I know that a lot of it's the mind games of moving back and forth, but when you need to have tempo, when you need to build up your board, and your opponent has the advantage on board, that's rough. And now we're seeing the Sentry with the stun with a Ravenous Flock in hand.
Yeah, this is a really efficient way for Alan to deal with this unit, but I think this is why Cosimo played this way, right? He wasn't going to get enough Shelly procs last turn to make it worthwhile, and I think he's just saying, you know what, I need to rip something here. I have these 2 Shellys. I'm expecting one of them to get removed, but I think the other one will live, and that is quite a good draw. The Flash Bomb is going to kill the 1/1, unfortunately.
These Flash Bombs have shown up bright and early, taking out all these 1 health units, really doing what they need to be doing. And here comes the first.
Bakal ngedraw, oh enggak. Get excited!
So
But I don't think it's gonna live very long. Oh, these 3 hits are so good, especially that Get Excited with extra axes in hand.
Excited.
Alan has the option of using those as discard fodder for the Get Excited or the Poro Cannon. I'm trying to see right here. He actually does have, if he wants to be really cheeky, just enough mana to take the Tri-Beam, play the Sentry, and then use it to kill the Sparkle Fly.
Yeah.
It's not a good line, but it's the funny line.
It is a funny line.
Get excited sih
Alan has also
pasti.
been quite cognizant of Spell Thief, it feels like, throughout this series, which is actually a really, like, it's a really little thing, but a very good thing when you're playing against this deck that I think most players would not have in mind. I think Alan's obviously very well practiced in this matchup. He's going to take the Get Excited as you expected. Obviously with Pale in hand, Alan expects a fight for this Sparkle Fly, but Plan A, I think, against Nami is always to literally just kill every unit they play. Oh, Cosimo repelling now because he needs more spells. Also wants the tune value here. This is going to be a really interesting turn.
Sparklefly, slightly thicker, a little bit of a big bug. Gonna heal up an entire 2 life if it gets to attack.
Cosimo 2 kali Nami yang ngedip ya. Nah, itulah jeleknya deck Nami Zoe, makanya aku nggak terlalu suka.
Oh, now it's too late. Never mind. It was Cosimo's priority. But now you can save the Sparklefly because you have 2 spells to play.
Sparklefly bisa di stun. Sparklefly bisa di stun. Terus Shellingnya di vlog, di thermogenic beam. Di
And we're seeing
itu bisa di stun sih.
Ending up with another lost soul and a tri-beam, and having a permanent tri-beam in hand is good because it will start building up value with every 3 cost spell.
Stun.
Now Cosimo
Dia bisa stun ke Sparklefly, terus dia bisa get excited ke Shelly ya.
Other thing here, and actually shout out to Impetuous Panda who was mentioning this on day 1 when I was casting with him. But you know, spells don't always interact that well with Nami's all units because Shelly and Nami are really good at buffing toughness, and they have a lot of protection spells, right? The Sunblast Figures, the Pale Cascades, ways to protect and buff the toughness of their units, especially when stuff's pointed at them, right? Cosmo even has a Bastion as a one-of in his list. But challenging them, like, right, Demacia lands it really nicely against this deck for a reason. And Twinblade Revenant, right, just constantly dragging the little Elusive into combat and smacking them over the head. That's been a classic formula to try and beat Elusives for, you know, forever.
Alan's deck pretty much always has access to a challenge unit once the first Lost Soul shows up. But here, we're going to see Get Excited. But before it can resolve...
Didn't play the burst spell.
Shelly's gonna die.
Oh, it didn't matter. Never mind. Shelly doesn't buff herself. So I always forget that. I'm like, surely this unit's that good. And it's never that
bakal di stun sih.
It loves everything else, though. And we do see the Sparklefly is now a 3-4. I believe it's a 2-3 once the Cascade wears off.
Yeah, the reason I like this land is for this, because now your Burblefish just cost 0. Which, if Shelly was still in play, would have been really sick at a cost 0. Unfortunately, I think the Burblefish are just going to have to block here.
And we're seeing the emotes from Cosimo. He did cast a 0-cost Thermo Beam there just to get the free Burblefish. So here's the Burble swinging in.
4 mananya turun.
Because Nami! 11 and Alan's board is giant.
Oh my god!
Are you kidding me?
Have you ever just been like, oh yeah,
Nami!
there's always going to be at least one health unit, and I'm always gonna hit it.
Nami!
Alan with the RNG right there, that's insane. Nami did show up. She is leveled, but most of the spells have been used up. It's all gonna be about the chain here. And I'm just so impressed by the power.
Okay.
The unending power
6, 9, 12,
right
15.
here.
Yeah, you're dead. You just can't. Sparklefly is dragged to the end. You can't block enough. You're gonna make this Sparklefly massive, but it's too late. Amy, that is literally every single flash bomb that got put into Cosimo's deck.
Every flash bomb,
every single
unit.
one.
9, 9, 12, ya.
And now Alan just gets to swing in, and he's gonna be moving on into semifinals.
Nice, Alan ZQ menang ya.
Alan ZQ moving on in the top 8.
Telat banget sih.
I mean, that is the mark of you know, a future world champion right there. Not only is he playing very well, but he is drawing very well as well. You have to play good and get lucky in order to win.
Cosimo teler.
Alan is showing both sides of that coin.
Cosimo BM ya.
Or maybe believe in the heart of the flash bombs.
Begitu dia kalah langsung
was definitely working for
Imo.
Alan. And I mean, the other thing about Alan as a player is that Alan is a favorite. You know, he is one of the players that was coined as one of the most feared, or someone that people should be scared of. I mean, Amy, does the play really reflect that?
Yes, you have two extremely competent players.
Udah kesel. Alan hoki flash bomb-nya bener. Flash bomb-nya hoki banget ya. Berarti memang itu cocok untuk ngelawan deck Nami ya, Nami Zoe. Nami, ya bener, Nami Zoe.
And I think Alan really nailed it home. I think that the first game was a bit of a wash, though. We did have the very bricked hand for Cosimo. That's gotta feel bad. The Nami really just showing up at the end of the game in Game 3 as well. But that's the weakness of the Zoe Nami deck.
Yeah, it's definitely heartbreaking for EU to have these two players play here, and super impressed by Cosimo to win the second game and even give us a third. But he did not draw particularly well, even though his play certainly was.
Ketemu Dravension mewek ya tapi.
This tournament. But unfortunately, Alan is also an exceptionally good
Jadi
player.
ingin bikin Draven Caitlyn.
Poland finals, which I know Europe is very excited about.
Aduh.
So it's always going to be tough with someone having to lose. But
Draven Caitlyn coba aja, makanya nggak segampang yang dilihat sih.
Great players home today. Let's go ahead and pull up the bracket though, because we're also sending some great players forward. Alan now taking a 2-1 over.
Yamato, nice ya. Wah, Alansky lawan What Am I seru kayak. Aku pengen lihat Sichu.
Excited for the NA versus EU Dream alive for that storyline, but I can't believe that we also have 2 more quarterfinal matches to go. So we're gonna go to a short break, and when we come back,
Oke, aku mau ambil minum dulu ya sebentar. Atau 3 menit kita masak mie dulu ya. Masak Indomie atau makan ayam ya. Atau ambil minum ya. Jadi Ben, mending Dravension apa Draven Caitlyn? Kalau gue bilang Dravension. Jangan Ben, melar. Masa bisa nonton Suri pada movie. Oke. Minum air putih aja tuh. Wah, diingetin buat diet ya. Udah, aku ambil minum sebentar aja ya. Oke. Oke, kita root for Sichu. Minumnya ketinggalan.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Legends of Runeterra World Championship. We have 2 semi-finalists so far, and we need to figure out who the other 2 are going to be. And welcoming in on the desk, we've got Freak and Skarzik to take over our 3rd quarterfinal match of the day. Freak, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm super stoked to be here. I'm glad I'm getting a cast part of the top 8. We're going to see if we have our 2nd American semi-finalist. I've spent the entire broadcast being a homer for my country, so I'm just going to keep doing that.
Skarzik, what about you?
Si Adi ya. Buat semuanya lah. Buat Dravension sama buat Draven Caitlyn dah pakai dua-duanya. Ngapain pusing? Bentar aja juga lengkap kok pasti kartunya.
I think that it's a deck that's actually very well positioned.
Pengen top up. Wih, tapi nggak ada duit. Ngapain top up? Top upnya buat apa dulu? Kalau buat beli bot nggak apa-apa. Tapi kalau buat lengkapin kartu jangan ya. Sabar-sabar aja. Sekarang cuma bikin satu. Ya udah, main sama Caitlyn dulu, Draven Caitlyn. Nanti kalau nggak enjoy, tinggal ganti kan. Tinggal tunggu buat Draven Sion.
Yeah, he's bringing, I would say, maybe the three sort of most common, sort of believed to be strong mid-range unit-based decks. You know, with Poppy Lulu, with okay, he's running the Ezreal version of Draven, but like Draven X is in pretty much every single person's lineup, and they're all like pretty.
Basic bagus nggak bang? Kayaknya sih nggak ya. Bagusan Poppy Lulu.
Winning that much, like again, I'll make fun of Twitter and Reddit because it's what I love to do. The deck has been, I mean, pretty 50-50 so far at the World Championship, but obviously, you know, is a strong deck and is.
Listnya siapa yang bagus ya? Listnya apa ini? Draven Caitlyn, punyanya si siapa tuh? Majin B lumayan.
Incredibly confident in the Nami Zoe, leaves it unbanned, is very skilled and just beating it with the Ezreal Draven. And also, I want to talk a little bit about the Poppy Lulu. Because this is the Ionian version and not the Bandle City version, you've got more elusives in that deck as well that can go toe-to-toe with the Nami Zoe.
Poppy Lulu ngeselin sumpah.
Maybe go underneath the
Aku kalah terus ya pakainya, aku nggak bisa makainya.
Well-constructed lineup here for the meta that he's anticipating.
Yeah, that is
Majin B udah gugur ya? Yup.
Even though I was prepping the matchup and I have the deck list literally on my screen, the elusives so frequently have one health that his list has not been lining up for him. He's actually 1-3 with his Poppy Lulu.
Ngeselin semua si Poppy Lulu itu.
Darkness, a solid 2-0 on that one. Finally pulled a ban in his last game, but he's winning all his games there. It has been situated pretty well. His sign list is 2-2. There's only 1 and 2, so he really kind of did get carried to the fact that he got his wins right away on Darkness and then kind of limped over with the rest of it. You know, another one of the players who came through at a 2-1 record, as almost everyone did. I think Wetama is the only person who didn't drop a single match so far this tournament, so everyone's had their stumbles. It is hard to find a lineup that works against literally everybody, and sometimes you just got to get lucky. So, you know, here's a look at his Darkness.
Favorit nggak perlu harus dimainin ya.
2 wins and a ban. I think it's a coin flip. If this one gets banned here, I think it's a worthy choice. He is running a couple of mini morphs, but there's nothing going to be that big to target. But he's got a Withering Whale, he's got Vile Feast and whatnot, and I'm pretty sure some Poke Sticks. So does have removal and you know can survive for a while until the sort of Exodia comes online.
Oke, kita simpen decknya. Aku pengen coba pakai.
You know, how realistic is that game plan when you're waiting on your Senna or your Veigar or something like that to come through for you in the later stages of the game, while your opponent might be forced to slow down in response, and it gives you a lot of time. If you don't get your win condition, this deck just cannot close out the game any other way besides the Darkness. This combined with Yamato's potential to just stumble with the Plunder means there are definitely some holes in this lineup. Very well with skilled play and by respecting the Nami Zoe.
Thank you buat siapa tadi itu? Thank you buat Inui, baru aja subscribe. Thank you banget. Welcome to the club, Inui.
Bringing the Nami Zoe, they still have to keep that deck within their calculations for going into these matchups.
Absolutely, and like we mentioned very briefly, assuming Darkness is so, yeah, Darkness is the one good deck he has that is strong against Nami Zoe. So again, if you think that one's getting banned away, and
Azirelia tanpa Emperor Des udah agak susah menangnya juga.
Zoe is slightly favored against his other two decks, but yeah, you've got to kind of figure out which way it's going to go because like I'm very curious what comes.
Azirelia jadi jelek gara-gara Navirelia kemarin. Memang banyak yang sudah antisipasi bawa landmark remover. Harusnya nggak usah bawa landmark remover untuk Azirelia sih. Cuma Azirelia udah mati ya. Udah nggak sebagus dulu. Mananya jadi 2 itu gede banget ya, 2 kali lipat. Wow.
And if Draven Sign is the ban, what you want to ban typically is actually the Poppy Lulu. So Yamato, from what I can see based on like Masters level win rate data and talking with other casters about what decks are favored, Yamato guessed the right ban and then hit the Poppy ban to help out.
Yeah, so we've got Aikato, however, staying with the Ezreal Draven. This is the list that he's known for, he's very comfortable with, he's been on a tear with it. Casanova mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, has been relying on this classical style of deck to just beat every other.
Hebat Yamato berani bawa ini Darkness.
So now we've got Aikato on his
Saya senang deck itu mati. Kadang asik jumpa Azirelia terus ya dipakai. Sebenarnya waktu itu enak banget sih waktu metanya Azirelia. Either kamu push pakai Azirelia atau kamu push pakai Nasus Stress Nasus dah. Stress Nasus ketemu Azirelia, waduh menangnya gampang banget. Enak banget. Enak banget waktu itu nge-push pakai itu ya.
Deck just draws all its pieces, it just wins. And I'm
That's
like, cool.
Every deck ever That's to every exist deck. In every card game.
and not only that, that condition is already accounted for in win rate. Like, if a matchup's 55-45, it's like, but if it draws well, it wins. Yeah, it wins 45% of the time. It can win. Like, it can draw.
Dua deck itu haram dulu, Bang. Pakai dong, aku suka yang haram ya.
But yeah, in terms of the Darkness deck, it's running a version that has a lot of the other Darkness cards, right? There's like 4 different Darkness generators. There's like 3 different Darkness buffers in the deck. Like,
iya sih, terus Nasus dulu enak bener, cuma semenjak Nasusnya di nerf aja sih jadi jelek ya.
As far as matchups are concerned, though, again,
Itu deck memang enak banget sih.
55% or higher in both of its available matchups. Meanwhile,
Darkbook Acolyte keep, Twisted Catalyzer keep, Senna Ixtali Sentinel buang. Kalau aku ya. Karena ini Twisted Catalyzer bisa attack gratis ya. Darkness-nya jadi 3 damage. Udah enak banget ini. Wow, Zoe. Tapi dia punya ini. Make it rain.
For sure, and obviously if you can ever, just get rid of those combat tricks or get rid of the removal, you're suddenly feeling really, really great. Looking to find a champion at some point.
Pasti drop Twisted Catalyze.
All right, who's gonna answer this one? No one's gonna have innately enough health. Okay, sure, you can make it rain and block with Zoe, so you don't get a second charge, but.
Yeah, and so this is what you want to see with Darkness. We've got Catalyzer, we've got Stilted Robemaker, although there aren't any Darkness generators yet in the hand because we need to wait for like 2 or 3 rounds anyway before the Nami and the really key targets start to hit the board. This is actually pretty acceptable for Yamato, and we've seen it repeatedly, Freak.
Kalau dipakai lama, Naminya level up, Bang.
And now Yamato can sit on this prank, wait for down to 2 or 3
attack semua sih.
And see, okay, what are your last handful of plays you might be up to, and then plan accordingly.
For sure. As far as the card draw is concerned.
Oh, got it even! Wow! Oh my god! Oh my god! Wow! Wow! Twisted Catalyzer lagi! Oh my god!
On Admiral Shelley or something, you can buff it up, get it to 7 or 8 health.
Wow!
He's running an individual pick a card as well on purpose for some card draw. You mentioned the ability to run out of cards.
Wow, I really like this.
Obviously the 3 Burblefish.
He got di block, oh my god. Aduh, itu Darkness sudah 3 damage ya. Kita hitung Darkness sudah 3 damage. Habis ini jadi 5 damage.
Maybe you've cast a couple mini morphs, Shelly or Nami from snowballing, then Aikato can then use Spell Thief to get the mini morphs and then turn those back on you to deny your Vegars.
Dia nggak bakal ngeluarin apa-apa biar spell mananya masuk. Mampus lu. 3, kita hitung Darkness ya udah 3. Lah. Double trouble nggak mungkin dikeluarin sih. Kalau nggak Naminya, kalau draw Nami nggak level up Naminya ya.
We're tracking darkness damage. Right now we're at 3. You know, grant everywhere, permanently for the rest of the game, it's going to get stronger. And waiting to see, yeah.
Oke, dipakai double trouble. Jangan ada yang tag-nya 2. 2-1. Oke.
So even if they trade down, it's like, well, my darkness is at 4. And you know, we're getting
Veigar! Wow! Attack dulu jadi 5. Gua suka banget nih kalau kayak gini nih. Oke, jadi 5 dan masih bisa jadi 6 ya, gara-gara 1 ini masih ada. Tapi bisa di Oke, jadi 5 udah ya, udah 5. Steel Maker turun. Oh, Veigar. Wow. Udah 5. Darkness-nya, habisnya Darkness-nya 6.
I was counting already, but the observer made it look like I just read the screen in front of me. But you know, we had 3 hits from the catalyzers. Next round we're going to 6, and yeah, Zoe Nami, they don't have challengers. Their direct damage, it's like, well, you could have like line them up and make it rain, and you can spawn some barrels, and you can hush for a round, but that's not going to stop a round start trigger, so it's not going to do anything against Veigar. And it's like, well, all right, we're getting some real big Narctis hits here.
Oh my god. It's okay, nggak masalah. Oke, 6 darkness-nya. Siltro Maker-nya turun.
Are gonna level up Veigar. I don't know if you're gonna get all the way to 12, but hey, on round 11, you know, go for it. You know, maybe it lines up, but it's actually a single shot puts you across. But yeah, I want to look at Aikado's lines of play at this point because okay, you can generate some more units. Keep in mind, a bit shy on units. Gifts from beyond can get you there a little bit. You can
tinggal tunggu Sena ngedraw aja nih. Waduh, udah 6 ya. Asik masuk. Oke.
We're still going to generate through with Zoe as well. So
okay.
The idea of getting a wide off the board, there's no
oh my god. Habis itu Veigar-nya level up. Kalau dia turun Istari Sentinel ya.
Serpent was picked there over the Moonglow because I think Aikado is just saying, okay, now I want diverse cards. I want to get this Zoe leveled up. And when you get that ability to share your keywords, that's going to persist even if Zoe eventually does get removed from the board. And that means you have a lot more flexibility with Shelly and things of that nature. Not only buffing your board, but granting it elusives. It'll make something like Double Trouble a lot more threatening.
And I think we're getting, you mentioned the Zoe level up, I agree, we're getting pretty close to that one, but also I think on round 7, we're going to see probably like a 4/4 Serpent come in and go attack Veigar.
Just to get him off the board, exactly.
Yeah, and get him off the board in time, because, okay, you can rekindle or
6, oke, 7. Poki stick, itu Zoe bisa di Poki stick tuh.
We still don't see Senna, so, is Shelly Sentinel? I mean, to be fair, that's going to do like 8 to face. You just need that one more time. So we aren't that far away from Yamato getting to cast to face twice to win the game. If you can find a second Shelly Sentinel, for example. But yeah, like both these players are like about 3 rounds away from some really like cataclysmic combos.
The deck from Aikado is known for its ability to just set up this big wall and close out the game early. But there is that through line. There's a little bit of combo DNA here that Aikado is trying to exploit in this.
Oke, jadi 8.
Where you're not really playing a lot to the board. You've got some steady.
Jadi 8.
Zoe, spell shield as well. That turn, Aikado seems to
Poki stick
from the very beginning. Burblefish now coming down and generating a Gifts from Beyond.
Yeah, Gifts from Beyond, so you can get all 3 Sparkleflies into the game. You've obviously drawn 1, so Gift's gonna have to not be crescendum. You know, at a certain point, these 2 can be, but you're gonna run out pretty quickly.
Instali Sentinel bisa turun, ditembak, darahnya sisa 8, berarti sisa 5 ya. Habis itu next-nya ada. Menang, Yamato menang ini.
get the first half of face damage, but that means we don't get an extra darkness generated.
Menang ini. Veigarnya level up.
Roadmaker, the 2 mana is going to make this a lot more flexible going into the later stages. And this is sort of where the deck begins to struggle a bit, right, Freak? Where you want to start playing these really expensive units, and then you're giving up your reactivity to Aikado's plays. Another expensive summon like that could really swing the gate wide open for Aikado to just pop off.
I'm thinking about it though. I am like a little surprised that this card has come down, because obviously she's a darkness generator in the first place. Okay, so we're missing the generation, but also, you know, the darkness you cast in face.
Itu darahnya tinggal 5.
Yeah, you know what? There's gonna be enough damage here. We're gonna go ahead and push you down to about 5.
Looking to get Veigar.
8. Veigarnya level up. Next roundnya Veigarnya bisa langsung ke face ya.
Now that he's flipped into Grand Overseer Veigar, he's gonna generate a darkness at the start of the next round.
Okay.
8. Next roundnya jadi 9.
You're gonna start blowing stuff up, but you still, I don't believe, get the target face until you get leveled Senna or another Ishtali Sentinel. So the rest of the damage, maybe your board is big enough. You know, right now you can put down Shelly without her dying. You have first actions. You can also play a unit. You can put a Crescendum down, or just hard play a Sparklefly, and just say, yeah, you can nuke Shelly, but I can get my buffs off.
Right now, Aikado needs to heal up, needs to survive this darkness at the start of the next round. When Veigar generates it, he's also going to continuously buff it. He's been in play since round 4, just chilling there. Aikado really has no means to answer this unit, and now your darkness can target anything. Crescendum trying to come through and get this wide board set up, but he just doesn't have enough time. There is the line of
nggak bisa ini.
Get third guiding touch, just
8, habis ini 9.
But now we've got Pokey Stick. Just a bit too slow for Mikado. I like the line, right? We were talking about this explosive Shelly turn coming up, but Ishtali's Sentinel just accelerated Veigar way beyond what Aikado had planned for here.
Okay, well, there's level 2 Zoe, so you can get your whole squad elusive, you can get them lifesteal, and...
Oh, lifestealnya 4 ya?
Okay.
Jadi 11.
With the lifesteal on the open attack, will it be just enough to save you from the darkness on
9 darknessnya.
Well,
because it is still slow speed, yes.
Yeah. You're gonna heal for 4. You have 2 Pale Cascades. No way to buff this, because, yeah, and it's dealing 9. So you do have enough to live, but 2 rounds from... And actually, 1 less round than that, because a Pokey Stick is in the hand. So you've got 10. You're 1 shy of dying, so, you know, next round you're still dead to darkness. Says, okay,
yeah, Nikado
what else
sees
can
this
I
in the
do?
hand. Activates the Pale Cascade for more draw. I like this. More draw.
Unless you draw...
more lifesteal.
Okay. It gives you 1 more round to live. But even that's not really true, because darkness this round, darkness next round is still going to kill. So I don't know how
ya, 19. Habis itu 20 next roundnya. Ini kena 9, terus kena 10 jadi 19 kan? Gak bisa. Pasti mati kok.
Like, you're getting nuked here and you're getting nuked next turn, right?
Yeah, you can do just darkness this round, and then Yamato's first action is a slow speed
spell
on the stack
10.
is going to be darkness. So game 1 coming through for Yamato here. Darkness managing to find the line.
Ya udah pasti menang Yamato.
MIA for all of these players.
Bayangin 8, 9, 10, 27 damage ke Nexus ya.
Just obliterate Veigar, but you know, the zero cost, behold the infinite. But
try
down
to
to 4 mana means it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, even goes for the Pokey Stick here. Just wants to draw a few more cards just to...
Kenapa nggak pakai stick ke ini ya? Ke Nexus ya?
But we've got darkness coming through surely. Enraged Yeti.
Sure, whatever. At this point though,
Okay.
there's not enough face healing. There's
Oh, bisa 20 damage ini sekarang.
You see his posture. He's like, yep, darkness is going face. Never had a chance to get rid of Veigar.
But Veigar, again, the deck from Yamato that he's known for, the only player to bring it here to the top 16 to make
Ahmi baru turun.
and the World Championships. And Aikado saying, fine, you get your win on your power deck. This means I still have another shot with Zoe Nami of fierce, explosive deck. And Aikado...
Gila, 10 loh.
You know, Draven
Di round berapa tadi itu? Round 8 ya?
It has been historically one of the weakest links of Yamato. Lineups from different players.
Nami pahlawan kesiangan.
All right, so we take a look at the matchups. I'm still kicking myself and constantly getting the Senna and Veigar level ups backwards, which is obviously silly of me. But yeah, Plunder versus Ezreal Draven from public data is basically a coin flip for Masters Tier ladder. Nami is favored. So
That's why aku bilang kan dari kemarin aku bilang dari day one. Nami is not that good. Kamu harus ngedraw Naminya untuk menang.
It's pretty much unanswered by the deck. Hey, that's why you got your odds here. Zoe Nami versus Plunder is just as favored, if not more so, for the Zoe. So if that's the run back, you know, that's gonna look pretty good. And then you've got a really, really close matchup in the Ezreal versus Plunder.
And we'll have to see if Icado is going to actually swap.
Oh my god.
Rarely are the players actually changing their decks, but Icado just wants to maybe shift focus here, wants to shake things off. You never know what's going to, you know, fix your mental state. I think maybe at this level of competition, a little superstition never hurt. And now we've got Lost Soul in the opening hand and Tri-Beam and Probulator, so Icado really has the power cards he needs for this matchup. And Yamato sitting on an all-star cast of
Temanku baru aja meninggal.
to maybe curve into a Gangplank or a Sejuani at the top end. The key card to worry about, and we've seen it time and time again when Plunder is on deck, is the aloof travelers blowing out these heavy champions.
Kenapa nggak ada yang Nami Fizz ya? Karena Nami Zoe lebih kuat.
Yeah, and that's what you're gonna look
Tapi
for.
lebih bahaya sih.
Nice top deck,
Yeah.
by the way. Now you're not swinging on one, but you're still getting a 3/3 Jagged Butcher. Your experience 1 for a Sejuani and Gangplank. Round 1
Langsung open tag. Oh,
here,
enggak sih.
as you tend to with any of these 3-drop decks. Any of the Draven variants, you're almost always passing.
Open attack.
Unless you're running like a House Spider to survive an aggro lineup, but that's not happening here. So you can consider Thermo. It's not the worst idea.
Oh enggak, oke.
Never mind, not anymore. You're like, all right.
Antara mau hilang 3 damage atau 4 damage. Thermo, oke. Masuk 4 damage.
Saying I can get my 3 damage, but you know there is the chance of get excited, maybe just denying this entire swing. But I'm just gonna double down, right? If Icado had come up empty there, that's so much damage so early in the game. That's gonna buy you tempo.
Itu monyet keluar ya.
Actually, really nice from this position because that's one of the best clean answers to
Monyet keluar. Cing cing. Go monyet, go monyet, go. Monkey Idol.
So those are both accelerating pretty quickly. Looks like we're not gonna
Go monyet, go monyet, go. Go monyet, go monyet, go.
gain XP on this round, but honestly feels good to start spawning some powder monkeys.
Yeah, Monkey Idol on 3 is just going to carry through for the remaining turns. This means that a champion top deck will be leveled almost on curve. You're also way wider than Icado. Not only are you getting the free damage from the Powder Monkey, you're just getting some chip damage here. I really like this. Yamato, as a safety,
Ini attack semua sih.
just maybe hold back one of these, the 2-1s, just as a blocker, but we saw him go for the aggressive development before.
Suara twistnya. Kemarin pada minta dikecilin soalnya.
Line of, do I want to go for Croaker? Do I want to go for Butcher Croaker here?
Yeah, I kind of like it this way. You're going to get the 2-1 Mystic Shotted almost certainly so that you can stay alive. And
Mystic
not
Shot.
too fast, but you're still taking 3 on this attack. I like getting the Plunder Trigger first and getting the 3/3 for the Butcher because almost anything you play, there's going to be something that's going to answer it. If a Spider stunts the 2-for-1, that feels bad. If the the Lost Soul is there or the other version, the Twin Blade Revenants, it's like that's just
Nggak di Mystic Shot.
the cards. Like you're not getting more damage putting a Butcher down. So yeah, might as well just wait it out.
Okay.
Swing now and not give him the block. So I think this is definitely the right option based on what was in hand. We do get 3 face damage down to 12.
Turun satu mananya, terus dia bakal ngedraw sih.
And you can just, ping it with your Fortune Croaker.
Draw. Draw, pasti ngedraw sih.
Fortunate that Icado actually hasn't found Ravenous Flock. The Fortune Croaker can become a detriment. You're opening up your units to be removed, and even Ravenous Flock cutting off the value of the Powder Monkey would be so important here. No Draven as well. I think that how many you could probably count the games on one hand that we've seen.
Kalau dia turunin Bumbabun, rata boardnya.
And the amount of games that he hasn't shown up on 3
Oh enggak,
or
oke.
near close. But Twin Blade Revenant hoping to even this out just a little bit. This tempo, Make It Rain, is glorious to take out the 4-1 and remain wide.
Oke. Tembak pakai kayak ditembak pakai harpun. Yep.
Nope, just kidding. I want one more powder monkey. What else are you gonna remove but this? I mean, you're getting so much damage coming into face pretty soon. Monkey's gonna blow up, put you at 10, and then you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're putting your opponent at 2 with 1 from Make It Rain. And there is no interaction in the hand right now for Aikado.
Yeah, there is no.
Habis ini masuk 5, 7, 9 damage. 10 termasuk 9 damage, terus bisa di Make It Rain. GG. GG. GG.
Heavy hands or just you have your late
menang ini Yamato.
Gets blown up by a Aloof Traveler and Aikado just coming up empty here in the mid game. We've got double Boom Baboon waiting there, but there's just
habisnya langsung open attack sih.
Here, you know, 2 or 3 rounds earlier where you needed those blockers.
Yeah, drew 2 of his 6-1 drops, drew a solid what?
Open attack, go! Menang ini. 10 damage pas. 8 damage ya. Salah ngitung berarti aku. 8. Aku salah ngitung berarti.
With 1 from Make It Rain. So, you find 1 damage anywhere and you're done.
And we've got Zap Sprayfin that's going to tutor for maybe something here. And Yamato again thinking we're seeing the slight
kapalnya bakal kebuang sih tapi.
But still considering these greedier lines of you think I can develop into this? I think I can develop into this.
Nggak dapat removal. Oh, dapat removal. Oh my god.
That's huge.
Mystic is huge.
Mystic shot.
Now your health instead of being at 1 based on Yamato's hand is at 4. That is a bit more manageable. If you never draw a Gangplank, you're kind of okay. Travelers is actually not bad here. I feel like you know, it'll line up well and get rid of the Dreadway.
You're getting rid of the Dreadway. It's very risky to draw your opponent a card, but you're enough in the corner that you need to get some resources of your own.
Wow.
Sentry, a huge pickup here for defense. There's 2 in the hand. We've got Twin Blade Revenant still ready to go.
Wah, sayang banget Make It Rain yang keluar.
Draws does not total up to 5. Aikado is now in a position to very easily from here and just start.
Wow, Yorda.
So the spells this card can draw: 3 Make It Rains, 1 3 Sisters, 1 Parlay, 3 Warning Shots. You are really confident, like more often than not, that this is doing 1 to face. That the card that was drawn deals 1 to face.
Chat gue masuk nggak? Masuk kok. Gue lawan Sion pakai Lulu Poppy berat ya. Tergantung ya.
Yep. But you're reading right now, you're saying, okay, I can't get my challenger down. I can't afford Tribune and Populate. Now you're like, shoot, there's 2 elusives, and they probably both drew 1 damage to face. I'm dead on board in most lines here.
Menang sih ini. Dia nggak bisa remove elusifnya, menang ini.
I don't know how he removes the elusives. Like you're hoping again to like top deck removal to get rid of Zap. Dia
nggak naruh ini ya, Twin Blade Revenant buat remove elusifnya ya.
+3/+4. It's just over. I don't think Aikado has much.
Mystic shot.
Another Mystic shot. There is still mana for Fury of the North here.
Oh, tapi ada ngebuff ya. Nggak bakal di block sini. Atau di block 1 ya pakai itu. Cukup. Make It Rain bisa dipakai sekarang sih.
Almost directly to face from hand, plus the 3 Sisters gonna block almost any removal. Like knows he's already dodged the Ravenous Flock angle.
Nggak ke face. Oh, bisa make it rain lagi sih.
Yeah, I'm curious the order there. It doesn't ultimately obviously matter.
Yeah, because you can send Parley directly to the Nexus. I suppose if you use Parley on the Sump Dredger, there is
attack langsung.
To kill his own unit to prevent that 1 face damage. But now we've got lethal on the
menang sih.
Mystic shot to save.
Aikado. Ya dikasih Fury of the North.
And suddenly it's got 5 attack, it's got 6 health, and Yamato.
Hey.
His darkness deck is still
undefeated. He's thinking, woi. Mikir apa Yamato?
Is it worth it? Do I have anything else need to remove?
Yeah, there's nothing to stop this here. You get Fury of the North at burst speed, so you can still do both actions in one.
Yeah.
Hey, Yamato mikir apa?
There's no way
Fury of the North.
Earth it or Ravenous Flock it. Even a get excited won't kill it. You need like 2 get exciteds. Like that's not gonna happen. This is looking like exactly what you want.
Buffs
Goes the other way
one just to make sure.
I'm not even sure what you're playing around,
here.
but who cares? You made it happen, and
Yang dikasih yang ini ya, yang gak ditembak ya. Aku gak ngerti lagi sih.
Unknown player to the casting desk. We were making him out to be an underdog, but at this level of competition, you know he deserves to be here time and time again. At the end,
Aduh.
calculating some sort of card that we couldn't even perceive. These
Itu TFGP ya? Yang mana TFGP ya? Bukan, itu JP Seju.
maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Gregetan ya, kamu tahu tinggal kayak kamu lomba lari gitu ya, kamu tinggal musuhmu tuh ketinggalan jauh di belakang, kamu tinggal selangkah lagi menang tapi nggak dilangkah-langkahin itu loh kan, yang nonton gregetan ya. Atau mungkin kayak kamu main sepak bola, kipernya lagi pingsan gitu ya, kamu di sebelahnya, bolanya tinggal kamu dorong-dorong nggak masuk, kan gregetan ya.
This is so exciting to get a chance to see. I am sure that everybody is excited about seeing the Darkness deck still
Sichu.
3 wins under Yamato's belt.
Sichu.
And it will be up to the match between Shihu and Realkey to see who's
Sichu.
semifinal. So
Itu ada apa lagi nih? Kita pengen lihat, aku pengen lihat deck Hammerdingernya berjaya sih. Itu doang.
This is a spicy one. I know as our
Zitu.
casters, you must be excited about seeing EU going up against NA, huh, Magwai?
Just a little bit. Honestly, I am so.
Kalau bawa Trundle Tindamere lagi udah auto ban itu. Bawa kan decknya nggak boleh ganti, bro.
Get your dongers ready. Heimer is coming. Hopefully no ban, because it's my favorite lineup in the entire tournament, represented by Shihu, and he's facing a player who also plays arguably my favorite competitive deck of all time, which is Twisted Fate Swain. So we got a really hype matchup here, and I can't wait.
Yeah, some very unique lineups. Obviously, Shihu, I think no explanation needed after what we saw yesterday and just the 5-head level that he's brought with this lineup. But also, Realkey has, like you mentioned, Mogwai, some unique decks in this tournament as well. Yeah. Decks that are also classics like Feel the Rush on Tryndamere. We saw TF Swain be so dominant in a meta, maybe 8 or 9 months ago, where it was just the top tier deck for 2 or 3 months. Then make it rain nerfs happen, and the meta with Targon obviously shifted with things like Equinox. But overall, it's been a very strong deck, and Realkey could.
Penasaran aku, Sichu, dia bawa Hammerdinger. Aku sangat benar-benar penasaran sih. Sichu ini juga mukanya mirip ini ya, Miracle.
Because we got the Twisted Fate Swain, as you mentioned, was a very dominant deck a few months back, but the same can be said about a deck like Feel the Rush with Tryndamere and Trundle.
Gila, Realkey ini seneng banget sama Noxus sama Bilgewater ya. Noxus bawa 2, Bilgewater bawa 2.
I already have an idea of what I would expect the bans to be. I don't know if you would agree with this, but we're looking at a lineup here from Shihu that's represented by Zoe, Heimerdinger, Feel the Rush with Tryndamere and Trundle, and then you got the Caitlyn Ezreal Draven deck, the triple champion lineup for that Noxus PNZ combination. So I definitely do think that Realkey will be taking a shot at that FTR, while Shihu may be looking to ban the Plunder list because it is
Majin B pelang plongo waktu lawan Sichu.
the only one that doesn't get completely back by Aloof Travelers that he's running in his remaining 2 lists.
Mukanya stres.
And the ban on Feel the Rush, I think, looking at Realkey's lineup, he has
FTR-nya nggak bakal di ban kayaknya. Kayak sih yang bakal di ban sih kayak udah 100% pasti Draven Caitlyn ya.
I just think it's not going to match up well any of his 3 decks against Feel the Rush being kind of like the ultimate control deck and the ultimate, Feel the Rush spell coming in at 12 mana and just taking over the game like we saw yesterday versus Majin Bay. And like you mentioned, completely a blast from the past. All of these decks, obviously some new additions like the Bandle City being a part of the Raven as well. well, but
Hammer Zoe pasti dikasih lewat lah. Ini deck apa ini ya? Orang pasti mikir gitu lah. Apalagi TF Swing kan banyak removal. Tapi kalau aku jadi dia sih, jadi situ aku bakal ban ini sih TF TF Seju ya. GP Seju ya. Ngeselin banget GP Seju itu. Aku mau lihat Damage plus atrocity-nya. Emang pemain deck slow control ya bang? Mungkin ya si Sichu ya. Gila nggak sadar udah 1:30 aja. I need to sleep. Jam 3-an lah paling nggak.
Let's talk a little bit about the deck that we're going to feature here from Realkey's lineup, Twisted Fate Swain. I am a massive fan of this archetype, and I really like his distributions. Going a bit heavy on the card draw right there with Zaps Raven and Whispered Words, a 5-set total out of these two cards. Monster Harpoon, a really neat, very late addition to the archetype alongside the Mirai Warden, and overall a deck that plays pretty reactively and aims to win with the Swain.
Di sini baru 1:30 ya, di sini 1:30 di Bali ya. Yes. Daerah mana bang? Bali.
Similar to Go Hard and a few other
Rita.
lists that have this kind of, they have a chance to adapt their game plan and go faster or slower. Sometimes they control the board, but sometimes they just flood the board.
Besok jam 10 aku harus ke gereja buat volunteer vaksin. Bakal ada vaksin massal di sana dan aku bantuin orang vaksinnya.
Run Noxian Fervors, all to have that extra bit of reach. So it's a deck that I think is very versatile. Similar to Plunder, Realkey, I think really going into this versatility and having a chance to have open matchups against almost anything in the game. And it's something that if you're a very skilled player where you really trust your decision making, you trust your own skill, having a deck that allows you to have versatile options is always going to be a very good thing.
Oh no, the
Hammer Zoe di ban. Oh my god. Kenapa Hammer Zoe bisa di ban loh? Oh my god.
These two decks in line as Shihu takes the ban on the Plunder deck, which is definitely what we were expecting. No, actually, no, never mind. I got these completely wrong because I was expecting Draven Caitlyn due to the aloof travelers hitting the Lost Soul potentially and not getting as much value, but instead Shihu respecting the Plunder list, and we're gonna see pretty likely a Feel the Rush from Prince here is gonna go in the front lines.
Kurang gede tuh bendera emok wae.
From Realkey to lead off as well. Twisted Fate Swain is a deck that he's generally left for last, and it is, you know, as much as we love this deck, we have to say that it has been a bit of a liability for Realkey, at least in the round robin phase. The deck had some really close games, but ended up coming short quite a few times. So let's see.
Daripada FTR-nya diambil sama Plunder ya, sama GP Seju, mending kebuang.
This matchup will advance to the semis and face off.
I think the key thing here is that there are no freezes in this Feel the Rush list. We talked about it yesterday when we were talking about the matchup with Sion versus Majin Bay, and it's something that you have to consider. Sejuani obviously is a big deal with the Overwhelm, Gangplank as well. If Plunder draws on curve and does its thing, and you know, turn 5, turn 6, you're facing a leveled up Gangplank Sejuani, regardless of the deck that you're playing, it might be, you know, a little bit too late. There's too many threats sometimes to deal with. We only have one Vengeance, I believe, in Shihu's Feel the Rush list, so I think that's the matchup that can go badly most often, or has the highest chance of just becoming a problem for Shihu against Feel the Rush at least. But like you mentioned, it is interesting because we mentioned that Realkey has a very controlly lineup, and because Feel the Rush enjoys playing so reactively, there isn't much to control. So it's very hard to get value from your reactive tools in Ezreal, or Draven Caitlyn rather. Actually there is, Draven Caitlyn and the TF Swain.
Nah, FTR-nya udah ke-draw. Tapi pasti dibuang. Avarasan Sentry bisa disimpan. Withering Well bisa disimpan. Catalyst of Ion bisa disimpan.
So to start things off, we're gonna have Shihu's Feel the Rush versus Realkey's Draven Caitlyn deck.
Yeah, definitely the start that we expected. And to add to what you said, while Shihu doesn't really Like, while Rilke's gonna lack things to react to, Shihu's own AoE is really strong against both Twisted Fate Swain and Draven.
Trundle-nya udah keluar.
Here, as it can just wipe a good portion of their early game. We see no avalanche there though, but there is access to the Catalyst of Aeons, providing Shihu with some ramp, and we also see double Tavern Keeper. So burn is very, very answerable here for Shihu with his opener.
And something we didn't get to really see yesterday, at least in the match we casted versus Bajin Bay with Shihu's Feel the Rush list, is this atrocity. There's 2 copies in the deck. It's a card that you have to be constantly playing around in the late game. We had always these kind of stall
Farah Sentry-nya di drop.
Rush and between who plays their atrocity first and who reacts. And it's just something that Realkey obviously has to keep very much in mind.
Si Chu bakal pas. Oh, tag. Okay.
In the late game.
Shihu opting to develop the Average Sentry here, giving up on a turn.
FTR, run 9, FTR. Semoga aluf travelnya gak kedraw ya.
Very important to note, we do see access to that grasp of the Undying, which could potentially just knock out this Draven upon attack, but generally speaking, not really recommended because you're at full health. So if Draven just open swings here, you just easily take that Catalyst play.
And looking at the top end, we see the Lost Soul has now been drawn for Realkey, so that kind of infinite value engine that we really, put on the spotlight yesterday during the match between Shihu and Majin Bay is now in hand, and you can start cycling it and start kind of dipping into that infinite value. Whereas for Shihu, he just drew the Feel the Rush, a very good card. We saw yesterday.
Biarin masuk 7 damage.
Impact also with Realkey's Plunder list has been a great card of the whole tournament because there's no Ionian in the meta. But there is Aloof Travelers in this meta, and Aloof Travelers will very happily discard Feel the Rush whenever it gets the chance to.
Really like this decision by Realkey. I think we can both agree that open attacking here would definitely have been a mistake, as it would have played into that Catalyst of Aeons, and instead developing the Sum Dredger with that Flame Chompers, which allows to remove a potential blocker, can lead to a good enough hit that even Catalyst of Aeons 3 health gain won't seem like that great of a play for Shihu. Realkey has to apply pressure this turn, without a doubt.
About it yesterday.
Gak attack.
It's either Avalanche or it's going to be Catalyst of Aeon. Sometimes
Trundle turun Trundle-nya.
To pass here and kind of burn your opponent's mana.
Kalau aku sih Trundle-nya turun ya. Kalau aku
your opponent has the same answers, has the same cards to answer your threats in hand, but you're just working towards his own game plan.
Kalau aku Trundle turun, next round-nya ngedraw. Next round-nya kebuang. Alf travel-nya tuh keluar. FTR-nya hilang. Aku sih sekarang Trundle, next round-nya bisa Catalyst of Ion, next round-nya lagi udah bisa langsung Trundle. Next round-nya FTR, tapi sayang Aloof Travel-nya udah kedraw duluan.
And that is just something that you can't do against the deck, because if this was Darkness, you're like, oh, well, they have to play their key pieces, right? Like the Catalyzer, the Rope Maker to build up the spell. But in this case, this deck only needs 1 play to win. Like, this deck literally only needs to play 1 card to win, and that is Feel the Rush. So getting to turn 9.
Shihu's entire game plan, like every single card except for maybe 6 or 7 cards in his deck, all read, help me survive.
Oke, bisa di remove ya.
That's all they do. They don't have any other side missions. They don't have any other. That's the only purpose they have, is to try and combat a pretty wide meta in terms of being able to answer different things while achieving the goal of getting to the Feel the Rush turn. In a meta where there's no denial, there's no deny to stop a Feel the Rush and just completely ruin your game. And this is why obviously Shihu has decided to bring a deck like this one.
Daripada di vlog. Oke, tetap bisa.
But in this meta, it wasn't really something you would expect. Trundle does go down here, but like we mentioned, you have a pillar now in hand. You have, just still, you're at 20 HP going into turn 6. You're very happy. You have Ruination now as well. If there's a development here, you could just see this entire board get erased.
I really like that setup with Realkey, building up the Tribing Improvisator, setting up the Ravenous Flock to pick off the Trundle.
Yes, habis ini Trundle dia turun.
Tribing Improvisator as of right now is at 4. We should keep track of it, because Tribing Improvisator is a card that, even though Shadow Owl's failure-based control has access to a lot of tools, they don't have access to Disruption. No denies, no renegations, so they don't really have a good counter for Improbulator aside from just a full-on board wipe, right? Which Realkey can definitely attempt to navigate around. Down goes the Tavern Keeper, bringing in that hot soup for Shihu and bringing it back to 19 health. As
the
we're
Tavern
getting
Keeper
close.
here you're just healing and just pretending you're actually trying to fight for the board, when in reality you're trying to bait your opponent into continue developing and then eventually just throw out a Runation. It's all about kind of making your opponent have these awkward decisions of, if I develop, I get punished with this. If I don't develop, I get punished with this. And it just doesn't feel, it never feels right to do anything basically when you're playing a deck.
Next dia nggak keluarin apa namanya, Aloof Traveler-nya next round-nya bisa FTR loh ya.
Would be racing the majority of the board here. You're gonna maybe attack with the Tavern Keeper first. Maybe there's another development that occurs here from Realkey, so you get one more unit, one more card in hand to go down to Runation. If there isn't a development, I think this is a correct decision from Realkey. I think he knows he can't go too far in.
This is a beautiful situation though for Shihu, because if Realkey plays the Aloof Travelers, he gets rid of the Field Rush, but then he gets just bombed by this Runation. But if he passes here, Shihu can legitimately pass here.
Oh iya, bisa pas sih. Karena kalau dia turunin Tryndamere, next round-nya dia nggak bisa FTR.
The turn we saw the pass from Realkey, it literally just prolonged the game 2 more turns without anything happening, because the next turn after that, the same thing happened. Draven attacked with some treasure, and with the Challenger, did 7 damage. Shihu played his Catalyst, and we were at the same exact place, but 2 turns closer to Field of Rush, to Runation. Now here it is. Shihu pulls off the Runation, kills his own pillar, but takes down the board here for Realkey, and now there's a chance for the Aloof to come in, and it will discard the Field of Rush.
Yep.
I guess it's easy for us to say because we think we have access to the hands, right? But there is a couple of Scorched Earths in
FTR-nya kebuang, astaga.
He's building up these Trivium Probulators as well, so he felt that maybe he would be a
bisa turun sih ini Tryndamere-nya.
Just developing that Field of Rush and not dealing with that current spread out board state, so he opts to wipe it clean. But this Aloof Travelers definitely hurts, and not a good draw.
The Runation pull there, it really just kind of, Shihu now gave up a lot of the control he had over like the mind state of the game, because the moment you pull off that Runation, second Runation is unlikely, it's not as effective anymore, and now Realkey is the one that has control over the pace of this turn, and he's the one that says, okay Shihu, you want to play Tryndamere? Go for it. I might just go very wide and try and push a lot of damage here with the very wide board, knowing that you already wasted one of your big board clears last turn.
Important to know that Shihu is only playing 1 Runation, and this is open deck list, so Realkey has no longer has to play around the mind games of the board.
Bisa the box.
And that
sekarang dia bisa the box.
Is looking pretty neat though. That box is gonna get value.
It's kind of the mini Runation in the case where most of the units coming down here have 3 health. Then it is easy to take the trigger, pull the trigger here for 4 mana. You get to take down both Draven and the Sum Treasure, so pretty good value.
Kok nggak nunggu attack ya? Karena dia bisa nurunin babun deh.
Pretty healthy and pretty safe if you're Shihu.
Can afford to play the Tavern Keeper after an attack here potentially, or even set up something like a Blood Raving. There's several options, but he definitely should not play anything right here. If he does drop a 3-mana play, he can still afford a Field of Rush if he were to top deck it, and that may be the difference between him playing something like a 4-mana card. He definitely wants to go for the Tavern Keeper instead here. So very nice sequencing by Shihu, and let's see if the heart of the cards is in his favor. Another atrocity.
Tryndamere-nya turun.
Now it is Tryndamere coming down, put some pressure of your own, start advancing the game plan. We talked about Realkey's deck and his
bisa di stun sih.
Having all of these reactive control tools. A unit like Tryndamere comes down and you think, all right, let me Tri-Beam it. Great, but now all of a sudden the second Tryndamere comes out. So instead you have to try and stun it, and this is the reason that Arachnoid Sentry is so versatile in this meta with Scion, but also kind of side hitting Tryndamere in this case.
God damn it, I just realized I said I was going to keep track with doing
Thermogenic Beam-nya udah berapa ya?
It's a 5. God, I had 1 job.
It's more
7 kayaknya. 6 atau 7 sih.
let's just stay on that.
All deliberate.
Now there's a flock coming down. Like you mentioned, there might be a thought process here to try and just go for. You can go for the Thermo Beam, you can just try and damage it and finish it off with Scorched Earth, for example, but there is a 2-step process at all points in time with this Tryndamere, which make things much more complicated for Realkey.
But this is really neat for Realkey though, because getting this level up in Tryndamere now and just pinging it in any shape or form allows you to
Tryndamere langsung attack ya berarti ya.
Mind games of having the threat of Scorched Earth is going to make Shihu hold back on a proactive atrocity.
Masih ke stun, aneh ya.
And that's really gonna set him back. Like we're
Kan
looking at
mati
a
padahal ya.
scenario where it does seem like Shihu needs to draw a field rush to have enough pressure going on here, especially considering he's only playing.
Is on 8.
At 8, oh
Tri-beam
my lord.
plus
he could've
thermo
got Tiana.
beam.
Watch him get a Tiana or a tactician.
And you can thermo beam for 3 still.
Oh, and he's going full in. Oh, does he believe? Oh no, he's going for 9. Wait, for 9.
He's going for 9. You can put this on the stack. It won't kill the Tryndamere still. There is a toughness here. Once again, it is relevant, Mogwai. He gets the dragon.
By a big boy. Oh, whoa, this open attack.
It's a big open attack.
Open attack is insane.
And if you, you can't play the thermal on the stack, so there's no fast speed.
You have to despair the chomper. You have to despair the chomper, otherwise you're dead. Oh my lord.
There's no fast speed response, so you might be able to do atrocity defensively, but that's also just an enormous risk, like you mentioned, the mind games of their.
Dia bisa turun ini Twin Blade Revenant ya.
Playing out this tri-beam, knowing that Tryndamere will survive rather, because he knows, of course, there is tough. This makes Shihu think, is there a second flock? Is there Scorched Earth? Why did he not care so much about trying to kill this outright in that case?
Will we see an open swing here, or will he develop the Twin Blade Revenant to try to
Twin Blade Revenant sih.
Tryndamere away? Though that will give him an option to play that. No, he's just going for the Loot Travelers. Really wants to hit another. And this gives him information. Very important. He saw he discarded an Atrocity. He knows there's no Field of Rush. Not only no Field of Rush, actually there's nothing more expensive. So no Tryndamere either. He knows there's no other Tryndamere in hand as well. Very, very, very important information.
A massive attack here, and the hand for Shihu is just awkward enough where you can't make 2 plays except for Trundle and Catalyst this turn. I guess Blade Ravine as well, but you can't combine these 2 powerful spells like Vengeance and Grasp, or Atrocity and Grasp, or Catalyst and one of the 7 mana spells. So it does make things awkward with only 10 mana. You can't do both things, and you have so many less answers against a board that is now looking very, very scary.
And again, open deck
You can
list.
still
There's
thermal
no
beam here.
Bluff. Yeah, there's no bluff for a Ruination here. So Rilke can just go all in. You will not be doing this if the possibility of Ruination still existed. So this is a big threat now. Dropping the Challenger can take away the blocker here and let that Caldrigan go face. Whoa!
Oh!
We're gonna see Avengers.
What do you do here? You either Thermo Beam or Flock, and if you do, there can't be an Atrocity response. 1, there's still 20 HP on the Nexus for Rilke, and 2, that would mean that you're locked out of any other plays this round if you play.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You don't quite have lethal with
1, 2, 3, 4.
You go for the Flock.
13.
No. I meant if he Vengeanced, like in response to that. But
if you Atrocity here to kill the 9/6, there's way too much damage coming in.
Now, with this Ravenous Flock, now you do. This is insane. Because now you actually, if you're Shihu, you have to react with a Grasp of Undying onto the Twin Blade Revenant, and then drop the Trundle to just chump block that Caldrigan. Like that's the only way.
To do it. You cannot play Atrocity here. You cannot try and get value from the Tryndamere dying here. There's just no chance that this works with the mana you have. Like you mentioned, it was just an awkward amount of mana here. And Rilke, the beginning of the game was maybe a bit slow, but I think he found the perfect window of time after the Ruination to apply as much pressure as possible and put Shihu in an awkward state, alongside obviously the help from Aloof taking down Field of Rush. That was, I think, one of the massive turning points in this game.
I believe that play may have gone. Oh my God, he's not playing it. Oh, he's dead. How does he live? Wait. How does he live now? No. He needed to grasp. He needed to grasp there.
Yeah, this 9/6, I'm not sure what he's doing to stop this 9/6. Even if he vengeances, that's just way too much damage coming in. He's not healing for anything. We're going to see a total of exactly 16 damage coming through. And like you mentioned, there aren't a combination of spells you can play here. If you play vengeance, you can't play anything else. The surrender comes in from Shihu. Game 1 goes to
si Susuran ya.
And this is a deck that we talked about yesterday. Overall, since its inception, Draven Caitlyn, Draven Ezreal are applying pressure and finding these windows of time to really ramp up in tempo.
Wow, aku sampai tegang loh. Kenapa sih Cu diem aja ya?
Applied pressure in the right moment, even though there are enormous board clears or huge just resets on the board in Shihu's deck, it just wasn't enough.
Also preserving that Aloof Travelers for after when the Ruination hit, that was just, again, really, really key sequencing. I do think Shihu may have made a few missed calls here. And like we said, the absolute...
Maklum deck Tryndamere Trundle tuh ke counter banget sama Aloof Traveler. Yep.
The moment he dropped that Ruination, like not only did he open himself up for the Field Rush discard and not being able to play next turn anyways, he also opened.
Oke, pertanyaannya apakah Rilke bisa bertahan dengan TF Swing-nya?
No, once that's gone, it's gone, and that changes the play pattern completely. So I think he could have held on to it a little bit more, even though the threat
Pusing itu sih, Cu.
is also a thing, right? But definitely a very strong first game for the Brazilian player, as he's just got to win with that Twisted Fate Swain. This is an atrocious matchup, though. But it is
Randall dibuang, Gaps Undying dibuang, Ruination dibuang. Catalyst of Ion mungkin bisa disimpan. Wow.
To start things off is not where you want it to be.
Wow, FTR.
That was a big explosion, but I think that's nothing important happening from that. That was just a visual glitch. But one thing I want to mention, Rilke, as much as you love this deck, Mogwai, I have a stat that I think is not you're not gonna love it. Rilke has not won a single game with this deck in Worlds.
I can't hear you.
He is currently in a match point situation where if he wins with this deck, he advances to the semifinals and he takes Brazil into the semifinals of the first ever Legends of Runeterra World Championship. But the stat is definitely not helping him. He hasn't won a single game with this deck. He has to, I think, mentally get over that fact and try and do his best here to try and win it.
It is true. This deck has been a huge in the Robin phase.
Wow, 2 kapal ya.
Reason why he lost a lot of series, and he still managed to make it through and qualify. But
Randallnya turun.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Rilke is the one competitor who qualified with a 1-2 record in the round robin.
You are correct. It was a triple tie between Badge Attack, Rilke, and Artifi, and Rilke made it through with the 2-0 win.
Oh, Randallnya nggak turun.
Gave him the head score there.
Wow, 3 kapal.
Rilke is also the player that brought triple Bandletree in the qualifiers and then just completely changed his lineup going into
it was him, right? Okay. Good to know. Down goes to Zavade. Are we gonna see a blue card or just a red card to enable that Ravenous Flock while also getting a little bit of chip damage onto the Nexus? Flock gonna go down here, no protection whatsoever within Shihu's hand, and honestly within his deck. Well, he does play one Troll Chant.
Yeah, exactly.
But he can even counter that with a Death's Hand here.
Dia bisa ini ya, Valen sekarang sih.
And of course the damage to the Nexus, and
dia bisa Valen sekarang sih.
Level up as well, little by little, trying to make sure that when Swain comes down, he is already a threat that has to be dealt with.
Rilke with the triple Leviathan in his hand, and this Avalanche is clean.
This is where things get awkward. Now there's been a stalemate. Avalanche comes down, clears the board, resets the momentum that Rilke was building up. And how does Rilke now replenish this board? Looking at the hand, well, Mirai Warden is one way to do it, but the Avalanche top deck
2 round lagi ya.
Respond to that play as well.
Okay, that's a pretty offensive pull. I mean, that's actually pretty good here, because you can assume that your little guys are gonna go down in this sort of matchup anyways, and threatening more damage is pretty neat here. Let's see if we. I think this is the turn where, I think this is an indication that we're gonna see Shihu setting up a Trundle this turn to get that pillar.
Event 4-3. Oh enggak.
His next round, we'll have the attack token and thus priority. As Average Sentry trades into the Mirai Warden, cycles more through the deck, and I believe it's time for Trundle to go down. No, he's respecting the Harpoon, actually. Never mind.
Harpoon, there was also a chance for just Death's Hand squad.
Tryndamere bisa turun sekarang sih.
Kind of Feel the Rush champions. We see 2 Feel the Rushes in hand, so definitely something I think you want to save if you're Rilke to have.
Tryndamere bisa turun sekarang.
Because Scorcher is a very interesting card where for 3 mana, as long as you're meeting the condition of the unit being damaged, it can have 10 health, it can have 7 health, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get a ton of value against certain units with that card. And in this match specifically, it's going to definitely work out.
Tryndamere turun sekarang, habis itu dia bisa FTR, nextnya bisa FTR lagi. 2 round lagi bisa FTR lagi.
He can afford to play Tryndamere here and still carry over that spell mana for the very, very crucial turn 9, in which Feel the Rush will go down. Aloof Travelers does not reside within Bilgewater.
Tandanya dulu lah biar level up.
Have to worry about that hand disruption. And the cavalry is coming, and it's gonna.
Enggak sih, kalau aku Tryndamere sih.
Mogwai, how did the Tryndamere get stopped in the last game? Do you remember? When playing the Feel the Rush list, Tryndamere came down and it was completely stopped in its tracks thanks to the Sentry.
Biar mananya efisien ya.
Also in hand here for Rilke, so the same answer here. One Sentry, that is true, of course, but it will stop kind of the chance at a lot of pressure coming down this turn.
For sure.
And you know, making you force out.
Ini udah pasti Trindamer harusnya yang turun.
You're expecting Leviathan next turn, then the Runation won't be as symmetrical. Very interesting stun onto the ice pillar.
Wait, what?
Trindamer yang turun.
Wait.
Is this so enormous brain that I'm missing something?
I'm a little bit afraid to say anything right now because maybe I'm.
We're casting a quarterfinals in Worlds. I'm going to assume there's something I'm missing here, and there's a reason for stunning the although right now it's not coming to me.
We're pea-brains.
We are talking about the Sentry being so exceptionally good against, you know, every card basically in the hand for Shihu. Ice Pillar is not the threat that I'm thinking of.
Tapi ada Sorcerer Earth sih di tangannya Rilke.
I got nothing.
Dia nggak bakal attack kayak si Sichu.
I have no idea.
It's been a while since I played TF Swain or Feel the Rush Toronto Trindamer, so maybe I forgot some kind of niche interaction that I mean,
attack, okay.
Surprised. So maybe we're both missing something. But Trindamer comes in uncontested, will be damaged here, but will survive. You can kill it with Death's Hand or with Harpoon, either one.
Wow, anakku bangun.
And this is actually a very interesting interaction here because the second Trindamer will obviously push through damage and will get damaged as well by the
enabling
spider
the
here.
Scorched Earth. Yeah,
Exactly.
this is to enable the Scorched Earth, but I mean, like I said, it would have been quite a bit.
Enggak, setelah level up dong.
You know, if he got
Kan ada yang 3 mana itu bisa ngelukain kan. Terus dia juga kena defend 3-2 kan, darahnya kurang ya.
I think that's important, but here Tryndamere is gonna get really angry. Smash the spider.
Ya.
This is damage coming through. It has a tough
Tuh, darahnya kan kurang. Nanti tinggal di Sorcerer Earth. Tapi kalau dia Sorcerer Earth nggak bisa kapal.
There's a lot more coming after him. There's 2 Feel the Rush still in hand. There's 12 mana up now for Shihu. So if you want to go blow for blow, you can play Leviathan here if you're real key. You now don't have mana for Scorched Earth.
FTR
You can
pasti.
have it next turn on the open attack, but then how are you dealing with the other 2 enormous units that are trying to kill you? You need like a full hand of fleeting Scorched Earths to try and do anything, and find a way to damage these 2 units as well. With Tryndamere having tough as well, we have the Death's Hand.
10-10.
Line up, you know, a possibly top decked Scorched Earth with Death's Hand because you have to do it in this turn, but there's no mana to do it here.
And
Bakal di defend,
the
okay.
key thing here is that you still preserve the pillar. And you just use the pillar to drag the Leviathan, and you like there's just no stopping this lethal. There's absolutely just no. I think Realkey at this point was just like, I cannot play around for the rush.
Pilarnya bisa turun.
And I'm gonna do my very best, but yeah, especially taking that hit at prior, like this is. Yeah, he didn't even think about it.
Oke guys, kayak kita harus end di sini.
Where it's just you're controlling the board, but your opponent's controlling
Okay,
the board
guys.
and has a bigger, a tougher, and a scarier top end than you. So you just get overwhelmed at the end. You know, never better said with Tryndamere and Trundle both attacking here. 10 attack on each of these units, can't be stopped. 20 damage being threatened, only 13 on the Nexus for Realkey. Shenimo comes down from Shihu. He ties up this series 1-1 in the quarterfinals of this Legends of Runeterra World Championship. Poland and Brazil vying for a spot in the semis still.
And
with 2 classic decks.
It comes down to Draven, Ezreal, Caitlyn versus TF Swain. Dominating win there for Shihu with the big boys. Finally getting that win with Feel the Rush, which is a deck that we considered very favored against this lineup in general. This is the ultimate test, though. It is Noxus on Noxus, PNZ versus Bilgewater. And it's going to be a very good take of this. I really like this tri-champion approach, you know, with the 2 Ezreals, the 1 Caitlyn. It kind of feels like I want them all, so I'm going 3-1, but it looks pretty promising.
Margaret with TF Swain, we were talking.
Kan level up Trundle kan, Trundle C kita main Ice Pillar. Bukan ada Ice Pillar terus Trundle-nya main, ini dia, nggak bisa.
Now going into a do or die moment with a deck you haven't won with this entire tournament. What is the mental game for Realkey looking like?
Yeah, especially like one of the scary things to take into account here is the Tribeam and Probulators as well. Like they can.
Nah ini yang agak pusing ini sekarang. Gimana cara ngebunuh Leviathannya?
This is gonna be an uphill battle for Realkey, and is his mind in it? Find out on the next episode.
Tribeam bakal disimpan, Aloof Traveler dibuang, Host Spider mungkin disimpan, Itu pasti Draven pasti disimpan ya. Oh, itu sudah mulligan.
Some more fuel in the early to mid game to try and answer all the kind of tempo heavy plays that Shihu might try and pull through.
Very solid looking opening hand for Shihu. Not bad for Rilke either with that double make it rain. You got the Twist of Fate and you got the Swain as well. But that Aloof Travelers is going to be looking very neat. Taking out the Swain or potentially a later Leviathan draw. The better way to disrupt that, I think, for Rilke is for him to draw into a
Draven turun.
in order to preserve the Swain from it.
Draven di stun.
Draven's going to come down because Draven is all about Draven, and he's going to get that spinning axe rolling, and we're going to see a relatively strong attack here for Shihu.
Aloof Travelers in hand, can hit the Swain now, can hit the Leviathan later, going to be one of the key cards as well in this matchup. We see a Sentry in the hand for Rilke. He would love to have a Flock to accompany it, to just be able to stun the Draven, kill it with Flock, and just, you know, kind of deal with the scary turn 3 attack token that Shihu has. I mean,
B bakal pas.
I talk about it throughout this entire tournament that all these decks have
Rilke bakal pas.
plays that you want to have on certain attack tokens, and Draven on 3 is one of the classic ones in Runeterra.
That feels bad. He just drew the Flock now. I mean, he has a decent red card here, which is a Fate, for example. But what we're talking about earlier, like, he would have liked that Flock with the Spider.
Aloof Travelnya turunin sekarang sih, nggak ada play lagi ya, yang bagus.
This Aloof Travelers, he can also wait on it because if he wants to be hitting the Leviathans anyways, he doesn't need to rush it right now unless he wants to potentially snipe a Swain here, because he could also just develop a 3-mana play to keep in power that Tri-Beam Improbulator. Several options here.
Swain until Leviathan comes down and until the late game isn't really a threat. I mean, you're going to have so many ways to kill it off with Flock and you know, Scorched Earth, and you have so many fearsome blockers. It's not like some decks that just don't have fearsome blockers. Things are really awkward when Swain can come down and then you death hand the one fearsome blocker and then, you know, go face. It's not the case here. You're going to have Draven, you're going to have, you know, the Aloof Travelers, of course. So I think you do want to wait on it if possible, the same way we saw yesterday. And the key thing to highlight in this matchup is let's see which of these players plays more reactively, because both of these decks in most matches want to be kind of reactive, want to control the board. But we'll see who tries to be more proactive and who tries to just be more patient and get more value from just the more patient plays.
We see right there, Rilke being like, I don't want my Swain to be discarded. I'm going to drop it down immediately, and saves it from getting lost in the middle of a trip. I don't really quite understand the Aloof Travelers, their lore, but yeah, Swain found his way, and instead, one of the extra copies of Twist of Fate was discarded for Rilke right there. As we're going to see the other Twist of Fate go down, and there's several options here, but I think red card makes the most sense. Yep.
And Rilke has to be happy about his hand. It is looking so much better for the mid game than the one he had last game. He has double Flock, he has double Make It Rain, he has Galling Strike, he has Zap to cycle to try and find more spells and just overall refuel his hand until he gets to Leviathan later on. And the Aloof #1 did not hit Leviathan. That's already a huge win in his book.
Oh man, this Ravenous Flock would be a very neat pull here, but the problem is there's no enablers for it, so he has to take that Get Excited, which will pump up the Improbulator. But this Swain is actually scary, because this Swain, if man, he could go for a Ravenous Flock first, then go for a Make It Rain, and go for another Flock, and he clears out. He just clears out all the blockers, and then he potentially levels up Swain as well, and just wipes here. Like, that would be huge. There are no more fearsome blockers, which would force Shihu to go for the Get Excited onto the Ravenous Flock just to prevent the Swain from getting all that value.
You could Get Excited into Scorched Earth as well. You have the mana to make sure that Swain dies his turn. If you really need that to happen, you have a way to do it, with both spells still pumping up the Tri-Beam as well. So you're not kind of thinking that you lost a lot of value or really went behind committing into that play. Although of course you maybe want to save Scorched Earth for something like a Leviathan later on. But Swain is always going to be the second best target.
Yep, we're gonna see that play.
Might be what we're seeing here.
Just in case.
Aloof Travelnya buang apa tadi? Guys, Aloof Travelnya tadi buang apa?
It does make a lot of sense for the sense of empowering the Improbulator, but it does leave you with no mana and nothing to potentially bluff either. So.
And these players are playing, 2 turns ahead at all times. He knows that if he needs spell mana for a certain line, he's going to go on next turn. He has to use a Flock instead. If he needs the Tri-Beam to be pumped up to a certain amount next turn because he thinks, this play is happening or this play is happening, he's going to, maybe go down to 0 mana and go for that play instead. So a lot to think about.
Kalau Swain-nya ada, berarti Aloof Travel-nya buang apa ya?
Being so reactive to be considering, you know, the most efficient way of dealing with your opponent.
Guys, Aloof Travel-nya tadi buang apa, guys?
There's a Swain level up coming in pretty early on into the game.
Best level up animation right there. Every time I level up Swain, I smash the hell out of my
all the
table.
new Shurima champions have something to say about that.
Di vlog pasti ya.
Legit movies happening there.
Call me a lore boomer. I don't care. I believe in the Swain animation just always withstanding the test of time. Doesn't matter how much CGI they get going on the other cinematics. It's just a gesture of dominance, pure dominance, and it's beautiful. And here we go.
There's a Swain.
Antara vlog atau
I think Realkey is you know.
Harusnya sih vlog ya.
Either a Scorched Earth or Ravenous Flock.
Scorched Earth-nya harus pakai buat kapal.
2 damage sneaks through off the Twisted Fate, but you know at this stage of the game, it's really not that game winning. There is of course you know burn type damage with Bilge Water coming through with TF Swain, but still when you're at 15 HP for
Habis pertandingan ini kita tidur dulu.
I like prioritizing the Ravenous Flock ultimately.
Yeah.
Because that Scorched Earth could be relevant to taking down something bigger like a Leviathan later in the game, in case he doesn't manage to hit it with the Aloof Travelers, which we've seen happen before. You know, sometimes you just don't hit the unit. You know, they draw it just at the right moment. But Aloof Traveler is very likely here.
Realkey has to find his top end now. He has, you know, interesting cards in Hired Gun and Zap. Zap especially can cycle and at least, you know, pay for itself. And it can also force, you know, the Ezreal into an awkward position here after coming down. I think Shihu would have loved for this Ezreal to connect and try and get some value from the fleeting Mystic Shots to take on the TF, for example. And he can of course still Mystic Shot this Zap and then go for the attack on the Nexus, assuming that there won't be, well, yeah, there's only 3 unit mana for Realkey. He can't play a second Zap in this case.
This Ezreal is very easy for Realkey to deal with. Not only does he have all the pings, but he also can just get actual value out of that Culling Strike onto it. But definitely was expecting this.
Wah, Swain-nya kebuang.
The Aloof comes in and snipes a Swain. There's one Swain.
Berarti Swain-nya tinggal 1.
Oof. Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, there's still Leviathans, right? But Leviathan without Swain is nowhere near as scary, especially because Realkey has not been able to get enough damage going on here. That Improbulator is looking nuts.
The Cooling Strike coming in clutch here for Realkey. After the Aloof comes down, you know there's not going to be any kind of plan to try and take down the Zap and go aggressive if Shihu was trying to attack the Nexus, because there isn't mana for the fleeting Mystic Shot anyway. And we mentioned it, you know, I think Shihu is correct in playing more reactively in not committing all of his mana and leaving his options open and trying to, again, he's controlled 2 champions to some extent after discarding and killing a Swain, so there's 1 more left. If you're thinking about a grinding game and you're playing a list that Shihu, you know, is playing with Lost Souls still, then I think you're fine going into the longer the game, the better.
Interesting Mystic Shock here by Shihu, getting rid of his other Ezreal in hand just to make sure that he's not threatened by a Twisted Fate level up. And I like it, considering the
baru 3 ya.
Going on for Realkey. Triple Zap Strafen and double Whispered Words. There could be a world in which Realkey has double Whispered Words and just is able to turbo level up Twisted Fate, and that is one of the few ways Shihu actually loses this game. So I really like that Mystic.
Wow.
There's the Lost Soul. That's a huge top deck. Not the flashiest play, not a Captain Farron, but it is kind of a guarantee where you're
itu bisa dibuang.
Looking at Realkey's hand, he's running out of resources. Lost Soul is the card that kind of avoids that problem for Shihu altogether, while he still has this kind
Tangannya si Realkey jelek ya.
free card with the Scorched Earth and with the Get Excited, just in case kind of this big threat like a Swain or Leviathan gets developed.
That Improbulator is
and the Trident,
high up. This is what I was talking about. Like, this is why I believe the Draven, the PNZ version essentially has the upper hand in this sort of Noxus matchup, because it's
turun.
On one end, like the big play from Twisted Fate Swain is Leviathan, and it's a very static play. You have to pay 8 mana for it. It's very vulnerable to even stuff like Thermogenic Beam. It's actually very easy to dispose of with this lineup. But Tribeam and Improbulator, the kind of value and especially the momentum that it generates, that is very difficult for Swain to deal with back, especially because it can be used to remove their own win condition. It's just such a powerful card in this scenario. Having it in the opener is really big.
I don't want to say it's over, Mogwai, because, you know, I don't think that would be great for the climax of this game, but when you're comparing kind of the unfair things these decks are doing at this stage in the game, there's really no comparison.
Nggak dia tag. Wow.
The burn damage.
Oke, Draven-nya turun.
Much higher in Shihu's list. He has the Ezreal. We saw it yesterday against Majin Bay. He was able to take down. It's enormous. It's enormous, and it only costs 5 mana.
Like, oh my god, dude.
And these draws for Ryoki continue to not be great. We talked about his early hand being perfect, but to keep that perfection going, he has to draw into the proper
semua, tarik 3-2. Bisa ditembak.
Shihu's got that rummage to make use of these axes. Draven being a very good draw in that regard. Getting him that second axe to get this free card draw that will still enable the Tribeam Improbulator to go off. So Ryoki could not even bluff a Leviathan if he
Bisa
wanted
card draw.
And this is just such a dominating position here for Shihu. The lost soul value is he's gonna make sure
Shifu bisa draw dulu.
card advantage between these two players right now is just off the charts. Two very low impact spells for Ryoki. And Shihu
Lihat drawnya.
getting that value, not even discarding the both axes.
Drawnya agak kurang bagus tapi udah turun ini lagi sih. Ya. Dan Blade Revenant.
Yeah, as long as it's not Leviathan mana, you don't mind. You actually
Bye Rilke. Bye Rilke.
Comes in a little bit too late. I think it won't get pumped up too much, but if this
Bye
is
Rilke.
long enough, if Shihu can't close it out in time, it might still be valuable. This is a huge board here. Krusty Krogger
Bye Rilke.
continuing to not be the curve that Rilke has to hit at this stage in the game. It's even if he draws a Leviathan now, it's too little too late. The moment it drops, you mentioned it, it's a static play. You play one card per turn with Leviathan, you get the Swain, the last Swain in your hand, but do you survive? With trying 8, 9, or 10 right now even? We've seen so many 3-drops played.
I don't even want to know how big that Improbulator is. But at this point, Ryoki's like, Ryoki's also drawing like the bottom.
Tag semua, go.
And even once he picks up this Leviathan is just food for Improbulator. And this huge hit, he can prevent some of it. He's got some reaction here. He can go for the Death's Hand and try to hit that Aloof Traveler with the Make It Rain. Does he connect here? But not really ultimately relevant, as eventually he's going to have to play this Leviathan, going to draw that last Swain in his deck, and Improbulator is just going to shoot it down and spawn. I don't even want to act like I know what's going to come out of that, but I do know it's going to be large.
You're going to have to hope for the Make It Rain to hit onto the Aloof and the Spiderling here with the Death's Hand.
Alat Leviathan yang ditribun saat hilang betul.
Rilke is in trouble. He's been in trouble for 6 or 7 turns. He knows he has to take risks. He has to commit both of these spells on the stack and hope for the best. The Make It Rain will not be hitting the 3-1 Aloof. The 3-1 will be going through. Wow. The House Spider will be dying. A lot of damage still being threatened. 7 damage onto the Nexus for Rilke. He does not have healing in this deck.
Kapalnya turun. Mau nggak mau, kapalnya harus turun.
How do you make it out of this? If Leviathan comes down, it's the only option, of course, for Rilke. He has the mana to do it. We're going to see the Tribeam come down, and it can be just immediately kill down this Leviathan. We could even see, I was gonna mention. It's gonna be the small Tribeam. I was thinking about this. You have the mana for it.
Yeah, he can do this and pick it with Scorched Earth and get that.
Exactly. And listen, you have the if you play the big Tribeam here, what else are you doing? There's nothing else to do because your opponent has no units. So instead, you use your mana efficiently. You use a small Tribeam, and you know there's a Swain in hand. It was drawn with a Leviathan, and that would be the checkmate from Shihu. Once this Swain comes down. With 2 crowds, it's not gonna do it for Rilke.
Bye Rilke.
They're scrappers, but this is too strong of an opponent. Down goes Ezreal, leveled up.
Bye Rilke.
Asking us to check him out, and ladies and gentlemen, it seems that the Donger Dream, let's go with that. The Donger Dream stays alive as Shihu is looking to find his way to the
finals,
taking down the Brazilian player in Rilke. And it's gonna be
Zizu.
Polish players actually representing Europe in the semi.
Oke guys, thank you semuanya sudah join. Sorry nggak bisa sampai selesai. Anakku bangun, aku harus nemenin dia tidur. Ya, karena istriku juga udah ngantuk. Dan aku juga harus tidur untuk besok. Thank you semuanya sudah join. Sampai ketemu lagi. Hari Senin deh. Besok kita istirahat ya. Senin kita leader lagi. Oke. Ya. Thank you semuanya. Dadah. I'm so sorry nggak bisa sampai selesai ya. Dadah.
The Zoe Nami needs to end for a lot of people right now. But that is really exciting. Shihu as well as Cosimo. I'm sorry.
As well as Alan.
Alan, you're right. Sorry. Alan, Shihu and Alan. I was like, there are so many good players. I'm having a hard time keeping them all straight. But Shihu and Alan being able to make it through,